All right. So we're just diving into it. I was just telling James, right?
Yep.
Okay. And like I said, we met 3 minutes ago and I looked at your guys' project. I looked at who you guys are just enough to say to myself, I think this is a good story to be told. And I think these guys are going to bring value to our community. So let's have them on. And then I closed the website out and I haven't talked to you guys since because I like the opportunity to sit down, get to know people, get to understand what your mission is in real time through conversation. While you were using the restroom, we started talking about a bunch of stuff and I had to pump the brakes. I'm like, hold on a second, dude. Just stop, right?
James has a way of doing that.
Yeah,
sure.
but it's good, Mel. And that also lets me know we're going to have a fun episode, right?
Yeah.
So, dude, let's just dive in because we were literally talking about the art of conversation and storytellers and how in today's society, we have these things called roadcasters where the three of us can tell stories and share ideas and it goes out to the entire planet. And how, you know, you were like referencing medieval times, people would stand up on a box and they would share their thoughts. They would share their opinions. And those were always the people that the powers that were in place were always kind of like hesitant of or weary of. And it's because scared of.
Yeah.
The art of being able to captivate people and tell stories is literally the foundation of being able to bring ideas, present things that could lead society to change. All the things that from the beginning of time, people in power, they don't want that shit. And so, like you said, the First Amendment is literally the catalyst of freedom. And so I just thought that was cool. Like we started going down that rabbit hole and it's like, it's the fucking truth, man.
It is, which goes into, so truth, it's funny you say it's the truth. So the reason why I brought that up and to kind of catch everybody up with it was we were talking about how the greatest miracle of arguably philosophical or ideological history throughout human history since at least Socrates and Plato, right? Western thought, if you will, is the American Constitution's First Amendment.
Yeah.
Right? And that is also interestingly enough, the exact thing that you need to heal and free your own mind. It's wild to think about that, right? So truth really does set the tone. If you are telling yourself the actual truth about your life and who you are and what you've been able to accomplish and also not accomplish, decisions you make and or did not make, the truth is right there for you to grab hold and then take it to the next level. And that allows you, when you're thinking for yourself, that is your truth in actual reality to then move forward into a healing mind.
Yeah.
It's everything. And that's it.
Well, bro, and like, I love that we've only been recording for 3 minutes on the dot and I'm already going to make a jiu-jitsu reference.
Heck
but
yeah.
Are you guys jiu-jitsu people?
I love jiu-jitsu.
Okay. What about you, Tucker?
Well, I just start swinging. I just fight. So I lose.
So we duck under him and then break his arm or neck or
He
whatever.
just sees red and bodies hit the ground, right?
I also,
his body's on the ground, actually. Yeah.
I also lose a lot.
Yeah.
Well, no, here's the thing about grappling or fighting, mixed martial arts, all that stuff. It's rooted in truth. That is another reason why it's so powerful as a healing modality. Because when you're on the mats and you're sharing energy with someone, and even though it's a competition, more than a competition, it's learning about who you are, and like I always say, more importantly, who you aren't. And who you are not is rooted in truth. Who you are is rooted in truth. And those two people meet on the mats, and it forces you to learn who the fuck you are on a level that a lot of people never find themselves. And that's why, dude, last night, we had 100 people for evening class. We have 3 classes that we run in the evening. We had 100 people on the mats because we got another mat room upstairs here too. And it's like, that's why it's pulling so it's appealing to so many people is they're finding their truth. That's exactly what you said, man.
That's exactly right. It's interesting. I found out on the mat, it was like 5 years ago, I'd say 5 or 6 years ago. I was on the mat with a black belt and we were rolling. And my next statement, I'm not saying this is, if anybody's in jiu-jitsu, you'll understand, like a white belt can beat a black belt sometimes, right?
Any given day.
Any given day. That's exactly right. So this isn't, for those of you who aren't in fighting, I guess, just know, like, my next statement is not me saying I'm better than this guy. All right. So I beat this black belt, but that's not the thing that happened. I actually made sure I showed respect to that black belt. And I said to him afterwards, like, hey man, I know I just won, but what did you almost get me on? How did you almost beat me? He enlightened me how powerful of a mindset that is. He's like, he literally looked at me like, first off, like, it's fucking crazy. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I want to, dude, listen, I got you, whatever. How did you almost get me? I know you almost got me a couple of times. What did I do wrong? What position was I in? I wanted to learn from him still, right?
Of course, man.
And that he actually shared with me afterwards. After class, he pulled me off to the side. He's like, that's good. Keep that headspace. Like, you want to learn from people and you have the respect for people even after you beat them, and know that in my place, I'm a black belt and I do know more than you still, right? And it's true. You do, right? And that's something I think we all need to bring into our lives. Is like, you might be better than someone in certain ways, but humble yourself to the point where you can also still learn from everyone, every conversation.
Yeah. Well, and if you make it to black belt, for most people, there are some arrogant pricks that are black belts out there these days. But in my experience, most black belts, again, have been rooted in an activity that's the foundation of it is truth. That by the time you're black belt, man, if I get caught by a blue belt, and again, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, when we do line up at the end of class, I'll congratulate them in front of everybody.
Heck yeah.
And I'll support them and I'll say, hey, and we might roll another 100 times in a row and I submit them in the first minute. So be it, right? But when somebody implements a technique and they're able to capitalize on something and they're able to beat their professor or other guys in the room that they typically do not beat,
that's right.
That's what we're chasing. That's the whole reason we're doing this, because we're trying to get better. No one's going to come in here on day one and tap out a black belt. So you put in a couple years, you get a couple tricks up your sleeve, especially if you come from like a judo background or a wrestling background. You already have something, you already have some tools in the bag, and then you become proficient enough to tap your professor. Bro, don't hide from that. Lean into that.
That's right.
Like, support that person.
That's right.
And so, yeah, it's cool hearing that, because when I was a young blue belt, because I was just freshly out of the Ranger Regiment, I was in fucking gnarly shape. And as a blue belt, I found myself tapping black belts sometimes.
Yeah.
And I noticed there was a lot of ego behind it. Sometimes people you could tell it bothered them. Who's this blue belt that just tapped me? And it's like, dude, don't take it personal. There's a lot that goes into who wins and who loses. And sometimes the fucking lower belt can figure out a path to victory.
That's right. And the thing it's funny, so here you go. What's behind your thought as the blue belt, I think, matters just as much as what's behind the black belt in that moment. And that's when you begin to tell who the person is as the blue belt. If you're going to respect that black belt still afterwards, that's something this is what enlightened me, by the way, when he said those words to me, like, keep that, is because it's, hey, I might have won, but it doesn't mean I'm better than. Right.
Yeah.
And it still brings the humbling back down so I can stay in my place and continue my growth journey, because my truth isn't over yet. I will forever be learning, like, my entire life. That is everything. That's the cornerstone of a free life, is to continuously learn. So like that, if I expect to become that black belt one day, and the black belt that can get beat with a humble mind, then I can become a better leader.
Yeah.
Are you trying to plug Refit right now?
Oh, not yet.
Refit will be getting
because
plugged, dude.
That being able to set aside your pride,
yes,
is the ultimate.
Yes,
like, we can get anything done together as long as your pride goes to the side.
That's exactly right.
And saying it in jiu-jitsu, like, the black belt being able to congratulate a blue belt in front of everybody just goes to show, like, you're here for the group. You're not here to prove that Greg Anderson's the best black belt in in Western Washington.
Right.
And bro, don't get me wrong. When I roll with my guys, I roll to beat them.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I tell them, like, hey, and sometimes I'll even find like, I'll have a blue or a purple belt. They're like, they roll and they grab like a knee bar and then they let it go. And it's like, oh, should I knee bar professor? And I say, rip that shit off, dude.
Oh, this guy's 44. I don't want
No. Take that fucking knee. Because that's up to me to have the not only
tap discipline.
The discipline to protect myself.
That's right.
And I'm not going to hold back if I can find your knee. So fucking like,
you would piss me off if you held back.
But that's exactly my point. If
I can't fucking take it, I can't get out.
If I am going to teach you the truth, then any vulnerabilities I see, I have to capitalize on those. And I want people to do the same to me.
That's right.
Because, dude, I'm like you already said, I'm still growing on the mats too. Just because I own the place, so what, dude? I have a long journey ahead of me too. And so I need people to give me their real jiu-jitsu. And yeah, I mean, you know, like you're saying, put humility aside. A lot of, or I should say, put ego aside and have humility, right? A lot of jiu-jitsu gyms will say, like, check your ego at the door. And I say check in on your ego. Don't leave it out there, because we're going to try and win.
Whoa. I love that.
You know what I'm saying, dude?
I love that.
Like, if you and I slap and bump, both of us have the mindset that I'm going to beat you. And if you don't come on the mats with the mindset that you're going to try and beat me, we're probably not a good facility for you. I want people that are chasing victory, right? And bro, chasing victory requires a certain amount of ego. Because if I would just leave my ego out there, and then what? Just let people walk all over me and it doesn't bother me, no big deal. No, losing still stings a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong. When I lose, it's like, fuck, man, how'd that guy catch me? That didn't make sense. Where did I go wrong? And sometimes I'm at home thinking, like, how the fuck did that happen, right? I'm not saying losing feels good, but I don't hide from losing either. If it happens, it happens.
Oh, I hate losing more than I like winning.
That's I hate losing as well. I'm going to tell you why that just blew my mind. Actually, I have to describe it real quick. What happened in my mind, and I want to ask you questions around it, because you just said check in on your ego. So in the process by which you lose, your ego is at play. In the process by which you win, your ego is in play.
Yes.
In both instances, right? You just gave the example of like where you're holding it in, where you're like, in this example you gave, you're holding in like, how did I lose? Where did I, instead of speaking up, because your ego is taking over and not letting you speak, right? It's like, how I need to talk. How'd you get me? What did I do? What did you see?
Yeah.
Right. That's where that AAR, if you will, comes into play, right?
Yep.
Like you're after action, you're after rolling, report, right? So like you come in and you talk to each other about, okay, what did I do wrong here? How can I get better? Where do you see improvement how'd you get me? Right.
Yeah.
That is an ego that is in check. You checked in on your ego and you recognize, okay, that's not going to control me. I'm going to talk to this guy and be a teammate.
Yeah. Well, bro, and
I love that.
And I don't know if you guys even listen to the podcast or not, if you're very familiar with it or not, but one thing that I say all the time is leadership is fluid.
Yeah.
Right? And that goes for almost any level of leadership. And I'm on the mats. Typically, I am the leader out there, not only
That's
because
right.
it's my facility and I built the team and I'm the highest ranked person, like by any measurable statistics, you could say, okay, he is the leader of that team. That doesn't mean that I won't step into a followership role when it makes sense. I had a white belt teaching me takedowns yesterday. One of my new guys.
Probably a badass wrestler.
Badass wrestler.
That's right.
But not only is he a badass wrestler, because his name's Adam, he's a stud. But not only is he a badass wrestler, but because he now understands like base and getting people's posture broken down and a lot of things that he learned through wrestling.
Hell yeah.
But now he's a year into jiu-jitsu and he's able to apply it to the gi.
100%.
And he's like, look, bro, if I get an underhook here and kind of pull your shoulder this way and then control your other wrist, and then I lean this way, like he's showing me how he's basically making up judo, because he's a really good wrestler that's now in a gi. And bro, he was showing me tricks yesterday that'll change my game.
That's right.
That's a fucking year, a guy that's been here on the team for 1 year.
But been in combat sports for
decade, exactly.
Decade plus. Right, exactly.
So
that's why one of the things I love. So I grew up wrestling. I've been wrestling since I was like 3 years old.
Okay.
And
that's where that handshake came from when we met out front.
Yeah, I guess.
Bro, I always say when a man shakes my hand, it tells me a story.
Yeah.
And I knew there's a story behind that handshake.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's where it comes from.
Actually, I get that a lot. That's thank you for that. I appreciate it. That's a hell of a compliment. I work on these hands. Been working on them for years. I lost my train of thought.
You said you grew up wrestling.
Right. I grew up wrestling. And actually, it's funny when you bring and translate it over to jiu-jitsu. This is just a jiu-jitsu thing. So many guys that I rolled with, they were like, what the fuck? You were a wrestler, weren't you? And I'm like, yes, I wrestle. Yeah. They're like, your body pressure is so annoying. Like it's every pure jiu-jitsu guy hates a hybrid wrestling jiu-jitsu guy.
The guys that hate the hybrids are the guys that want to hide from the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it always goes back to
Good
the truth.
callback.
Because bro,
Good callback.
this is the truth.
Yes.
And this, I tell my youth students, they're like, hey, professor, wrestling season's coming up, and I'm thinking about taking a break from the gym and doing wrestling at school. Yes, fucking do that.
Yeah.
Any black belt that tells you otherwise is full of shit, right?
Yeah.
Because the best grapplers in the world have good wrestling and good jiu-jitsu.
Amen.
Now, a wrestler that knows no jiu-jitsu, he's fucked, man, because he doesn't understand how to protect his joints, how to protect his neck, and those things have catastrophic fucking consequences if you don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you take a wrestler who's an elite wrestler that understands base, posture, scrambles, transition, weight distribution.
Bow nickel.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And then you teach him the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu. That person is dangerous as fuck.
Undefeated.
Dude. And so you can't, anybody that, I'm to the point now where I just tell my team, dude, everybody wants to call it judo, sambo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. We're here to grapple each other, man.
Yeah.
Because all those arts bring value.
You want to know something else I love about jiu-jitsu, actually, speaking about grappling? So, okay, I wanted to know, why is it, let me start from the top. So why is it that the infantry is so, and anybody in combat arms are so connected? I wanted to learn more about that. And then you learn that, in the infantry, you have to do combatives, right? And you're basically doing jiu-jitsu and rolling around and shit. And you really begin to see bonds get built there between the guys doing it together. And then it's like, okay, translate that out into the real world. That's like jiu-jitsu, combat sports, everything. When you're inside of a gym, you're getting really connected with the guys you're rolling with. And I started asking myself this question. I was like, what's happening on a chemical level with us, right? So then you start thinking about, what are we really doing before you can ask the chemical question? We're hugging each other. Like when you're doing,
100%, bro.
You're hugging there. And then I looked into it. When you hug someone for 3 seconds or more, there's a chemical that's released, right?
Yes.
And like, I forget what it's called, but it's not dopamine or serotonin. I think it's some other type of chemical that's released when you hug someone for a long time. And it's almost like bonds you. There's a bonding that happens 100%. And a trust that's built. So when you're sweating and hugging each other, even though it's like violent hugging, like you're sitting there and you're trying to break my arm, but like, I love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm building this love and this respect for you.
And bro, some people will hear you say that and think, that sounds gay.
Yeah.
And what I say to people that think that,
come hug me.
You are mistaking sexuality for intimacy.
That's right.
Bro, we share intimacy on the mats.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Fighting another man is a high level of intimacy.
Amen.
And you see it all the time in the UFC. Dudes beat the fuck out of each other for 15 minutes.
Yep.
And then they both kneel and just fucking hug each other.
I love that. George St. Pierre did that a lot.
There is a level of intimacy that you form through the physical connection with another human being.
That's right.
And dude, I love that you said that, because I think about this shit all the time too. Our brains work in a similar pattern, it seems. Because because people always think, why does jiu-jitsu bond people? Oh, well, because you're facing adversity together. Well, we could go on a road march together, and that would be facing adversity.
Yeah.
We can do, and bro, I mean, right there is a CrossFit gym that I also built.
Yep.
I've done thousands of CrossFit workouts with people since we built this place. They're good people. They got good energy.
Yep.
I'm not bonded to CrossFit people like I am to jiu-jitsu, and that's the reason.
That's exactly right.
I think when you make a physical connection with another human being, it on an energetic level literally connects your energy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys have geeked out on grounding.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you touch something that's electrical charge is out of balance with your body, you and that piece of planet Earth come into homeostasis.
Yep.
I bet you're doing the same thing with human beings too.
100% you are. 100%.
And that is one of the reasons why it's like, oh, we're together now. Mm-hmm. And bro, human beings have been fucking like very physical and present and like touching each other, sitting around the fire with each other, like having these intimate connections and bonds since the beginning of time. And now within literally the last 100 years, everybody's in their cubicle, they're commuting by themselves. They're in these giant apartment complexes where they don't even know the person's name that's 18 inches away from them because there's a fucking piece of drywall.
Yep.
And we're unconnected. and we know that something feels wrong, but we can't quite put our finger on it. And that's why when people come to jiu-jitsu, they're like, I fucking love this.
Yes.
People are mistaking dopamine for connection nowadays.
That's exactly
Let
right.
me get into my phone. Let me get this dopamine real quick.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And bro,
Instead of having genuine human connection.
And that's the thing. Like, it's funny because when it comes to the damn phone, I'm as guilty as anyone. I find myself picking that fucking phone up and being like, why did I open the Instagram app?
Mm-hmm.
I've already looked at Instagram today 25 times. And I pick my phone up, and Instagram is open before I even make the decision to open it. Sometimes, and
You
it's
know
like
where it is.
It's like fuck, they
I
got
have an
me.
app for
Tap.
you.
They, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm on the mats, my phone's in the office plugged in, and for hours and hours and hours, I don't even think about my phone because you're getting reality out there.
That's right.
You know,
Getting connected to reality is everything. So I want to start from the top. That's why I usually have my notes with me, but I'm going to try to stay.
bring your notes out, bro. It's all good.
Sadly, it's not turning on. It sucks.
Oh, okay.
So started from the top. The first thing that I really heard that I want to cover is grounding. So something that we do on our retreat. So we partnered up. We got lucky
Well,
enough.
let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's just fucking, because we just started talking jiu-jitsu. We're already 20 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, I love it.
Before we go into like specific things that you guys do at your retreats and shit,
Yeah.
let's just say, like, what is your mission? What is Project Refit? Who are you guys, and where are you at, and where are you trying to go? And then we'll dive into all those little rabbit holes.
Cool. So there's two answers to what is refit. There's refit to me personally, and then there's refit to what you will see, interact with, everything like that. So I'm going to start out with what refit is for me personally, James Corbett. So, and I think it's important because it leads into what you see on paper as strategy and all those things. Okay. So me, James Corbett, who I am, I was at Columbia University when I came up with a bunch of the ideas and concepts and things like that. And I ended up dropping out of my master's program to start all this shit up back in 2016, and then 2017 formally founded, and it's been growing ever since. The reason why I even decided to enter into this space of military, first responders, et cetera, when I was 6 years old, and I am actually sharing a story more now because for me to be the better leader of truth, I have to tell my truth, right? So everything I'm about to say next is coming from a place of I've worked on it, strength, all that shit. I'm not saying it for any other reason. When I was 6 years old, I aspired to be in the Navy SEALs. I was writing letters to Navy SEALs until I was like 13, 14 years old. And then I stopped, and then I focused on just wrestling full time, right? When I was 18 years old, I destroyed my leg. I actually have to take long breaks in between doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling throughout my entire adult life, which fucking kills me, because I have a back that shifts out of place all the time because I don't have an adductor muscle in my right leg. So I call it, my right leg is my meat prosthetic.
Uh-huh.
So, and it actually affected me. I didn't believe it for the first 6 years, from 19 until I was about 25 years old. I did not believe in my mind that I would not be able to one day at least go into the military and join. Never could because of literally my medical injury.
Was it a catastrophic injury?
Catastrophic. I literally have no muscle in my inner thigh.
What happened?
So I was wrestling when I was in my senior year, and I destroyed my leg. It snapped, the muscle snapped away from the bone entirely, off the bone entirely, brought the meniscus with it. And it's the adductor muscle, which is the muscle that holds up your entire upper body. Uh-huh. So I have half of a muscle in this leg. My left leg overcompensates heavy. I was actually sharing some more with Tucker about how like that affects me in all ways, even in intimacy ways, if you will. But anyway,
he's into pain. Pretty much.
Yeah.
What it came down to.
Damn. Yes. So not really in a weird way, world. But my back shifts out of place where I have to crack it back in. I can feel it moving, all that kind of stuff, whatever. And I can't run more than a half mile uphill without like excruciating back pain. And I tried figuring it out from 19 to 25. How can I get through this? And how can I figure out how to get my life going? So 25 hit, I'm in, Columbia University. I'm like, I have to just literally put that behind me and figure out another way to enter into the fight in some way to help out America. Cause I philosophically love this country and the First Amendment, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I find it to genuinely be a miracle. I really do. Because freedom of thought is everything to the human soul and spirit, right? That's entrepreneurialism. That's everything. That's how you heal yourself. So anyway, I decided to come up with this strategy. And what I identified first, what's the problem in the nonprofit space? So, why are so many guys coming out with mental health issues? There's studies and studies and studies, all tons of shit out there. Right. And like, what does mental health look like right now? What's working, what's not, all those things.
So out of the gates, you were looking at helping first responders and veterans.
Okay. Yeah. Especially because even like a lot of my friends are in all that stuff.
Yeah.
One of my buddies, one of the co-founders of Refit's actually in Syria right now, coming back soon. And he has a really cool story in Refit for the We Show Up methodology. But I decided to find the space. And what I found is there's no real good and effective boots on ground outreach efforts that exist in America right now in the nonprofit space. That's like a huge gray area gap. A guy who's struggling to getting into care, convincing him to do something like that, right? Or to get into a jiu-jitsu gym or to continue their life because we are in cubicles and because we're so connected and disconnected at the same time, right? There's no body really showing up for each other, really. Like we're trying to get people to get out of their houses and get to each other and be around a fire again. That's actually a core tenet of this organization is get around a fire and talk to each other again. Get back to the old ways. People always talk about how sitting around the fire and having really deep, conversations is so important to them. And how like, it's like, wow, this is different. It's like,
bro,
this is primal.
We run a 3-day immersion course, which we teach shooting and grappling. Because I have a firearm range 12 minutes up the road from here. So people fly in for a weekend and we do a block of grappling and a block of shooting every day. Saturday night, though, we go out to my property on the river and build a big bonfire.
Yep.
Like fucking clockwork. At the end of the course, all the course critiques, the majority of people are like, hey, shooting's cool. Grappling was fun. Sitting around that bonfire was the highlight of my weekend.
That's right.
For that fucking reason, man.
That's exactly right. Because you're getting down to the nitty gritty. And what we do with this, actually, I developed something that we call mental combat. All mental combat is taking what Socrates did to so many people and then bringing it back to life again. Where I'm just going to question you and ask you tons of questions on why that negative thought you have is wrong. And I will get to the root eventually where we can turn that into a reframe, into a positive. And the fact that we are not allowing people to do that anymore, like you have bureaucracy destroying so many things. But anyway, before we get into all that.
When you say you ask people to prove to them why that negative thought is wrong. So you have a veteran that just says like, hey, I don't feel like I have any value anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of veterans, they're Rangers kicking doors and now they're driving an Amazon truck and they don't feel like they have the same value that they had.
Sure.
So then you're going to dive in and be like,
we're going to be like, how can we find that you do still have value, you do still have purpose? And we're going to try to find how you can move on from that. You're in a different chapter of your life.
And you guys find the most success literally doing that around a campfire, face to face.
Yeah.
Talk about personal truths.
Yeah.
That's when it's time.
Right.
Bro, we actually it's cool to hear, but it doesn't surprise me at all because when we do our bonfire night with our program, we call it Guns and Geese. I don't think we've had a class yet where there's not tears at the bonfire.
That's right.
Bro, and it's like, we don't even structure this as like, hey guys, Saturday night's a counseling session. It's like, hey guys, Saturday night, a group of men and sometimes women are just going to talk life. And once you give people the pass to talk life, not only the pass, but the environment where they can be vulnerable, bro, that's where the fucking magic happens, dude.
That's where magic happens. That's exactly right. And when you especially when you set the precedent and the tone for everyone that is there. And so we have an open, like, the first 10 minutes is literally me telling everyone like, hey, look, there's basically a left and a right. Like, what's your left and your right? Right. And then we're going to try to figure out from there, working within those confines, like no racism, no, we're not really going to talk politics here. Like we don't want any of that crap. We don't want it. We want you, if racism is a thing that happened to you or you struggle with it, then we'll talk about it, obviously.
Yeah.
However, we're here for you, not even however, and we're really here for you to lay out the actual truth, the thing that you say to yourself in a split second, then ignore that truth that tries to come into your brain to tell you who you are now in a positive and or negative way. And let's work on that. that thing that you hold so dearly to you that you never told anyone before, and you let it out right here. That is where the real shit happens.
Yeah.
And it is so cool to watch. And it happens out on these retreats where you're completely remote. You're around a group of guys. We either worked on the ranch together, depending on the location, worked on a ranch together, did something physical together to bring in that bond. Even shopping at a grocery store together. It's one of my favorite events that we do, is literally getting all the guys off the plane, and we take them to a grocery store, give them 2 carts and say, break into teams and find the food for the day or for the week.
Yeah.
And then they have to talk to each other immediately. You're throwing them to the wolves immediately. And it's the coolest thing.
And bro, fucking shopping with a man I don't know and planning meals for the week, that sounds more stressful than fighting him.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. And that...
I can barely grocery shop with my daughter, let alone some stranger.
Absolutely.
That's right.
You know?
And you know what ends up happening? Laughter, joking around, like talking about how difficult this is. And you are going through a system that sucks. And it's so simple.
Yeah.
And we point that out. It's like, how fun was that? Like, that was what can you do this beforehand next time? Like, never.
Bro, I love that you said you set left and right limits. And we kind of do that too, because it's like, don't get me wrong, that there are political issues, the borders being open, fentanyl coming in, like the economy. Don't get me wrong. There are issues that should concern you as an American, right?
Absolutely.
But those aren't the issues that are going to heal yourself.
That's exactly correct.
Right?
We're here to grapple, if you will, or fight, which is why I'd call it the mental combat portion, that thing that's in you. Because that's how you get to affect change in the world.
Well, and bro, so I used to be like really fucking bent out of shape about this governor and this mayor and like all these motherfuckers that like in my soul I still think are just vile creatures, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But how do you combat that? It's not by getting on my Instagram and talking about what a piece of shit Governor so-and-so is. It's getting on my Instagram and inspiring someone to go for a run.
That's right.
Or spend some time on the mats or change their diet. And now that I'm a coach of a very successful academy, I've seen so many people find their own power through the process of chasing personal excellence. And bro, once people fucking jump on the journey of personal excellence, they're not going to get manipulated and pulled into all the bullshit that's plaguing society.
I wish so badly
that your notes were working.
That my notes were working, because I did a thought train yesterday.
Well, hold on. What is it not charged? Is that why?
It is, but it's stuck on is starting. So there's something else that's going wrong with it. Maybe we could try to plug it in, but I did a thought train that led to that point where I was thinking about like, what is truth? You know, truth is something to, I wish I had it up because it was so beautiful. And it just came to me last night on the plane. And I was just writing, and it's like a whole, it's like probably like that long worth of a sheet, like a legal pad.
Well, and bro, like, do you guys follow Andy Frisella? Do you know who Andy is?
Yeah, I've heard of him before.
So he started the company First Form, and he has a gigantic podcast. And I was on it last week. I've been on a couple times. We've become friends over the years, and that's his whole thing. Like, you see how clean my academy is. I don't have a bunch of shit on the walls, but I have one phrase from him, and it says, personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. Because that is the reality of what is going to first build people up on an individual basis. And then once people are empowered on an individual basis, that's when our society as a whole can start to move towards like a collective enlightenment. But when you take a bunch of sick, depressed, fat, weak, like physically and spiritually weak people, and you try and say, hey, this is the answer for all you guys. There is no answer that'll work for those people until they figure out how to turn themselves into people that they're proud of. And this is what I always say. My metric, I don't care if you're fucking jacked with a 6-pack or you're 100 pounds overweight. When you look at yourself in the mirror, are you proud of who you are? And you know what? There may be a guy that's still 100 pounds overweight, but maybe this time last year, he was 200 pounds overweight.
That's right.
And the person he sees in the mirror, he says, that's right, motherfucker. We're doing it.
That's right.
We're on the path. That person's empowered.
Your world's internal.
That's right, dude. You take people that have, as you just said, their internal world on the right trajectory. That's how society as a whole eventually wins.
Yes.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
You came here, you got off a plane, somebody that had a problem, you believed was something you couldn't manage, you couldn't deal with, and it was going to identify you for however long. Something you're ashamed of, something you've been told you're broken. You have all these mental issues. You're not this, that, or the other because it's just not in you. You don't know how. And getting that out of somebody and letting them know, like, hey, that thought's, it's okay. I get it, but that's not true.
Right.
And getting them back on the plane to go home, more focused on being a good mother, father, parent.
Start at the basics.
Husband, wife, sister, brother, whatever. That is now their focus because they can let whatever it was go. They've told people.
Yeah.
People accepted them for it and told them, like, you don't have to let that be you.
Well, bro, and when you like you just referenced people telling you you're broken or you're not good enough, 9 times out of 10, the person that's telling you that is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my experience with my friends. Mm-hmm. And, I actually talked about it on last week's episode. One of my buddies went to a healing retreat and they're like, write out the real negative shit that you say to yourself. And my buddy wrote out exactly like, dude, sometimes I feel like I have no value. Sometimes I feel like I'm worthless or whatever it is that the things that he tells himself, right? And bro, part of this healing retreat, they had horses. And they're like, now pick a horse. Go pick a horse in the field. And all the horses had names. All the horses had a story. But all the horses were rescues. Like horses that were going to be put down because, like, for whatever reason. And this place is like, no. We're gonna rehabilitate these horses. Because they're rehabilitated horses, the veterans and the first responders feel like, oh, we share this energy, right? And it said, now take your list out of the things that you told yourself and go tell one of those horses that to its face. Tell that horse that he's not good enough. Tell that horse he doesn't deserve to live. Tell that horse he's worthless. And bro, he's like, I can't even begin to articulate how powerful it is because you're looking that creature in the eyes and you're going to verbalize that you think he's worthless and that he doesn't deserve to live. And it's like, it's so painful to try and articulate those thoughts. He goes, I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit there and look at that horse and tell him the things that I tell myself.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that, man.
If you wouldn't let somebody else say it to you.
That's right.
Right. And
that's another thing they said. Would you say that to your daughter?
No.
Would you say that to your spouse? But we say it to ourselves.
But the idea, so my interpretation is always, whose voice is that? Because it's not yours. You wouldn't say that to yourself. You've interpreted something throughout your life to mean that now you're worthless. Now you've identified with something that was taken away from you, and now you don't have value.
Yeah.
So where is that voice coming from? And once you can identify where that voice is coming from, that's your starting point. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So you get to the bottom of it, and at the end, they're like, oh man, I do have value. Like, that was a chapter of my life that I was really proud of, and I can always identify with that person. But just because I'm not that anymore doesn't mean that I don't have value as a father, mother, brother, whatever. Or people getting out of the military who have identified with that for 20 years maybe have a really hard time adjusting to civilian life.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they don't have purpose. Well, I'm sure you know, and some people listening definitely know, that if you spent any time in a military leadership position, you are almost immediately qualified to take over a mid-level management position. You have managed money, you've managed assets, you've managed people, and that experience alone is worth so much more on the outside than you realize.
Yeah.
So getting people to realize that they do have value, even if you were just you were an infantryman for 6 years, you don't have to get out and go be a cop. Like, that's what a lot of them do. A lot of them are really good at it.
Hey, that's what I did.
Absolutely.
Because you think like, oh, well, I'm operational. I carry a gun. I run towards the sound of gunfire. Like, all these things that, like, as a soldier kind of started to become an identity. And you think you want to keep chasing that. And now, like, I'm not saying that to try and dissuade soldiers from moving into law enforcement. If that's
Absolutely
something that you think you'd be passionate about. But you can, I promise you guys, like, I didn't find true passion since the military until I started a jiu-jitsu academy.
Mentoring with people.
Absolutely.
Mentoring people, bro. And mentoring people has little to do with fucking guns and kit and body armor. And like, it's sometimes hard for people to walk away from that stuff because, like you just said, it's part of an identity. But lean into the identity that is exactly what you said, a mentor, a leader, a friend. And bro, that can take place anywhere.
I do want to saying like you don't have to go be a cop. I would say if you are passionate about law enforcement, do go be a U.S. Marshal.
Yeah,
or
for
a
sure.
Deputy
Yeah.
U.S. Marshal.
Yeah.
Do go to the FBI Academy. Don't set your sights on your hometown police officer unless that is what you really want to do. Don't handcuff yourself to what you think you have to do. Go for it. Shia LaBeouf, don't let your dreams be dreams. But yeah, absolutely.
I just think a lot of people, and this is my experience, they chase different law enforcement positions because they're still chasing that thing that we had. And that thing that we had overseas, bro, that thing's overseas. You know what I mean? Like
You want to be super cool again.
Yeah.
You want to feel that ego.
Yeah.
Check in with your ego.
And it's like, and bro, when I was a U.S. Marshal, I was on the special response team, and I got to, like, every once in a while get to go to a pretty cool fucking mission in Los Angeles and take down a fucking meth house or whatever it is, right? And you're right, dude. It felt like fucking, yeah, dude, this is what I'm here for, right? And don't get me wrong, it's cool. It's
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
But at the end of the
It's honorable
day,
too, by the way.
yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, like, I honestly think like running and gunning is a young man's game. And I think in your 20s, like, that's a cool thing to experience and chase and grow from. But I also think I think it's healthy to move past that as well.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say, I think the wearing a badge should probably be about a 10-year career.
Yeah.
There are guys that do it for 30 and love it, and that's cool, right? But what I've seen more often than not, about the 10-year mark, dudes are burned out. And once you're burned out, now what?
Absolutely. Pushing your body and your mind to find out just how far you can go is something that I think when you're in your 20s is perfect. Go do it.
That's right.
But you can only do that for so long. You can only go so far, and absolutely you will burn out.
Yep.
For the people who chase leadership, right? I don't think that it's as easy to affect young people's lives positively, or just people in general. You affect their lives so profoundly and in such a positive way as a leader. That's kind of hard to find outside of a uniform. Because most people do 9 to 5. We go to work, we go home, and I do what my boss says, or my employees do what I say, and that's it. But that's what really drew me to Project Refit, is that this is a way that I can significantly impact people's lives for the better and use my own experiences to show them that they have so much more value than they think, or the problems that they're going through are all mental. 95% of barriers are mental.
That's right.
You're holding yourself back, but you're handcuffing yourself to this thought.
So you were a soldier and a Marine. Is that correct?
I was a soldier my whole career. I'm currently in 5th SFAB.
I don't know what that means.
Security Force Assistance Brigade advisors. We're right next to 275. But
Okay. As a Marine?
Army.
I thought I saw you in a Marine outfit on your Instagram when I stalked it real quick.
It's kind of hurtful.
I guess I'm fucking...
I can read and write.
Oh, damn.
No, I'll tell you what, bro.
I don't read ads.
I always tell people, like, all the inter-service rivalry, and we talk shit about each other, but it's all from a place of love, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Until I was deployed to Ramadi in 2004, and I was on a Marine Corps base, and I was like, fuck, the Marines are squared away.
Yeah. Everybody.
We talk shit about them, our whole fucking the crayon eaters and all this shit, but it's like, when I saw them in fucking combat theater, dude, like, Marines are fucking squared away, to the point where I was like, fuck, man, should I have been a Marine?
you know why I didn't join the Marines? Their door was closed, and the Army recruiter came out and was like, hey, what are you doing?
Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
Bro, I had not the exact same story, but very similar. I was like, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL or an Army Ranger. That's what I'm going to be. 17-year-old, knew nothing about either one of those units or their mission capabilities, what the training entailed. I just knew both of those things sounded badass.
Yeah.
So I went to the Navy first, and the recruiter seemed like kind of a D-bag. I was like, that dude's a fucking dork, man. I don't want to join the Navy. Walked into the Army, and the recruiter had a Ranger tab.
Ooh.
And he seemed cool as fuck. And I was like, Army guys are cool. Navy guys are nerds going in the Army. And it's like 17-year-old brain bases and your entire future off of fucking
A tab.
two random human beings
Yep.
that literally have nothing to do with my future.
Funny story is I went to the recruiter and signed a 91 Bravo airborne contract, 91 Bravo wheel vehicle mechanic.
Okay.
Went to MEPS, did the physical, everything. I was on my way home from MEPS, and I was like, man, if I'm going to join the Army, I want to do something really cool. I don't want to just be a diesel mechanic when I get out. Nothing wrong with that. They make great money.
I was going to say they make more. You have more a more lucrative career path than an Army Ranger, probably.
Absolutely. And that was initially my plan. And on the way home, I was like, man, I'm joining the Army because my dad said I had to get a job or get out. And
I guess I'm getting out,
I'm
bitch.
getting out. Yeah, let me do both and save you the effort. So we're on the way home, and I was like, man, I want to do something cool. Like, are there any other jobs available? And my recruiter was a 13 Fox, Ford Observer.
Yep.
And he was like, yeah, 13 Fox is always available. I think one leaves in 2 weeks. We'll check when we get back to the office. Got back to the office, checked. I signed a 13 Fox contract. 12 years later, loved it.
Oh,
Absolutely
wow.
loved it.
Okay.
Yep. So I've been a fisser my whole career, all 12 years. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about leadership is I joined as a 19-year-old fuck up.
Yeah.
Like I went to college and they said, don't come back. Your grades are too bad. Don't come back. And I went home and my dad was like, job or out. You're going to pay me rent or you're going to get out of my house. So I went and joined. I went to the Armed Forces Career Center. I can still picture the thing. I don't even know if they have them anymore, but walked in, the Marine Corps door was closed, and he popped his head out and was like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, I just came to talk to them.
You're like, I'm getting kicked out of my house.
Yeah. He was like,
are you hiring?
He was like, are you trying to join? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, come here. So that's how they got me. 12 years later.
What year was that?
2012.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm very close to finishing my med board.
Oh, okay.
I've had 5 surgeries in the past couple years and need a 6th. And the 6th surgery was like, hey, 6 surgeries on a 31-year-old is absolutely absurd. You should probably call it. The P3 gets put in, and here I am. That was hard to deal with because I had...
Was there a catastrophic injury for you as well, or was it just fucking Army wear and tear?
So it was Army wear and tear without any proper recovery.
Yeah.
Being in your 20s and thinking like, so what? We did a 6-mile run, 5-mile run. It's not that big a deal. I'll do it again tomorrow. I'll stay stretched out. I ended up developing exertional compartment syndrome in my calves. So the muscle compartments are only so big. You have the fascia in between them separating your muscle compartments. With exertional compartment syndrome, your muscles swell to a point where your compartments are so tight they can't contain the swelling, and it forces the nerves out of the front of your leg. So for all these years, I thought I had shin splints, and I was rolling out with ice bottles and everything else. And I finally got to 5th SFAB, and I talked to my provider, and he was like, what have you done in the past? Told him everything I've done. Schedules me an x-ray. Of course, we got to go in the order of things. We get to the ultrasound, and they're like, oh, that's a nerve popping out of the front of your leg. So I had the fasciotomy done. You can only create so much room in the leg. The PSI rating in my leg was still over what is considered normal.
I didn't know our legs had PSI ratings like
So
a
Crazy.
fucking tire.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
Funny story. The way they check that is absolutely excruciating. Like if you're going
Long
to
needle.
if you're going to get a compartment syndrome test, make sure they're giving you lidocaine. Because I went to Madigan
Uh-huh.
and they did not. And so I'm walking fast on the treadmill, running on the treadmill, trying to build the pressure up in my legs. And I sit on this table and he's like, okay, I'm going to check it. And he jams a needle all the way into my muscle compartments.
I had to do the same shit.
And pushes water into it. And they get the reading by how much water is pushed back out.
Okay.
And he
literally PSI.
They do it in all 4 compartments.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely miserable.
The needle's
Hey,
like
you want to
that
know
long,
what, too, man? Like, what sucks for your situation is there's so many people. Like, everybody thinks, like, oh, everyone in the military is a bunch of fucking studs, right? No, there's a lot of people in the military that are, like, just fucking, like, broke dick whining motherfuckers, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many times had you had privates? It's like, I can't run because my shin's hurt or whatever. Like, you hear that shit, right?
Yep.
And so people are probably thinking like, fuck, oh, Tucker has shin splints.
Yep.
Poor fucking Tucker, right?
Absolutely.
And then you're like, oh no, actually, dude, the Army's doing fucking surgery on me because my calves are so fucked up.
Yeah.
But you're a 1 in a fucking million case.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying,
honestly.
dude?
So
That's real.
So it's like, it's actually kind of like retribution. And when I say like I had privates saying they can't run because of shin splints, that wasn't in regiment. That was in like, you know, like 30th AG. I don't know what you guys call it, like reception battalion. Whereas like, that's where soldiers, they get off the bus, civilians, they shave your head and they put you in uniform.
Yep.
And that's where the wheels start to fall off for a lot of people.
Real quick, something actually to resonate with that. That's how my injury got so bad in my leg. Was when it happened, I told my coach, and the guy's great. I'm not talking crap on my coach at all. I love my coach. And my wrestling coach was like, Can you stand up?
Yeah, you're fine, dude.
And I was like, I stood up. He's like, can you run? I started running a little bit. He's like, keep doing that.
You're fine. Hey, suck it up and drive on.
I did. And it did so much damage.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yep.
Well, bro, and that's actually one thing, since we're talking about military injuries and shit, I was actually medically discharged as well because I went from Ranger Regiment and then I went into a flight contract and I was going to fly. And I was in flight school. I went down to Fort Rucker, Alabama, became a warrant officer. And in flight school, I was doing CrossFit and I hemorrhaged my retina. And I went partially blind in my left eye. So I thought I had a stroke, dude. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I can't see very well out of my left eye. So I went to the hospital. And hindsight, I wouldn't have went to the hospital because all that happened is my retina hemorrhaged and the blood pools up right behind your pupil and it causes a blind spot.
Wow.
And it's actually not a very catastrophic injury, but they're like, dude, you have a blind spot and hemorrhaged part of your eye in flight school. That's a disqualifier. So you're out of here. And I got dropped because of that.
Here's the thing that I've come to love about stories like that. That sucks. Flying
Yeah, but
sounds
there's probably a high tension wire somewhere with my name on it. A lot of birds. This was 2007 or 2008. A lot of birds went down in the war on terror. So it's like, maybe it was all for good. You know?
Exactly. And that's what everybody says is everybody I've talked to who initially wanted to do a 20-year career, something medical happened and now they can't. I'll say, what is the impact to your life now? Like, do you think you would be happier if you'd finished the 20-year career?
No.
None of them.
I mean, who knows, right? But at the end of the day,
Right.
I love where I'm at right now, and I also know I'm where I'm supposed to be, and that was just the path that fucking took me here, man.
Yeah.
But
That's
I'll tell you this,
resilience
though,
for sure.
this is where the Army fucked me, though. They said you can reclass to a SF warrant, or they gave me a couple different options, right? Or you can actually put in for a medical discharge. But because we're giving you an option to stay in, your medical discharge doesn't come with a medical retirement. So, yeah, I got fucked on that one. Dude.
Before we get into all that, because I know he's super passionate about like get what you have earned. And that's a great headspace, actually.
Bro, I talked, I just bought a book called
You Deserve It.
You Deserve It. And I gave it a plug on my Instagram because it's like, bro, if you're a vet that's fucked up,
Yep.
right? If you're a vet that was fucked up, and I was just like most of the vets, dude, I got buddies.
Could you define fucked up, by the way?
Well, that's what I was just gonna,
Cool.
say.
Yeah.
What I used to define as fucked up is like, dude, I know guys that lost limbs. I know guys that fucking like this dude lost an eye, and like, to me, when I was a young Ranger, that's what fucked up is. And so it's like you get out and you tell yourself, dude, I'm good. I don't deserve a medical, or I don't deserve a VA rating because my body still works pretty fucking good. There's a handful of my buddies that are dead, and then there's a bunch of my buddies that are fucked up, and I made it out pretty unscathed. What do I deserve, right? And it wasn't until years later I was at a counseling session, and the counselor goes, Greg, all you Rangers are the same. Let me ask you this. Do you think the government spends their money wisely? I was like, we chuckle at that, you know? And she goes, do you think that because of the ailments that you acquired through service and through warfare, that if you could get up to $4,000 a month, that you couldn't probably allocate that better than how the government allocates its money? He goes, if you have a personal moral dilemma with accepting money from your government, and they don't have a dilemma accepting money from you, but if you have a dilemma accepting money from them, find a nonprofit, find somewhere that you think that money could be beneficial. Start a college fund for your children. Like, get what you deserve.
Yes.
Get what you earned. And here's the thing, man. You can't scam the VA. I'm going to let people in on a little secret, dude. When I put in my claim, bro, I've probably been to 100 appointments, 100 x-rays, MRIs. They make you go through like these different mobility routines. Like, they fucking look in depth into your claims, and then they determine if what you say is more likely to be true than not. And if it is, then they consider giving you a disability rating. And you know what? If you can go scam that fucking system, go scam that system, right? But what I'll tell you is this. You don't have to scam the system.
That's right.
Because you don't spend 10 years in the military not come out with some type of fucking ailments. And so guess what? Go fucking talk to a VA rep about your ailments, and they're going to tell you if they think they can fucking put a claim in and get a rating. And if they can, don't fucking shortchange yourself on that.
That's right.
If you can get out, can you get back in? If the answer is no.
Check it out, bro. So this is ridiculous. This is the fucking military, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm discharged. My eye's fucked, right? My buddy goes, have you put in a fucking VA claim for your eye? I said, nah, like the injury healed. I can see again now. No big deal. He goes, hey, dummy. And he was a dev group SEAL Team 6 operator. That's like, was always kind of one of my mentors when we were overseas.
Very important.
He's like, hey, bro, don't be fucking stupid.
That's right.
He goes, if you re-injure that eye at a later date and you don't have it documented, it's only going to fuck you worse. Go to the VA. So I go to the VA. They document it and they give it a 0% rating because they said, yeah, you did get injured. We do see the fact that this happened to you.
Yeah.
But the injury is 100% resolved. So we're not going to give you any type of monetary compensation. And I was like, okay, well, if it's resolved, I'm going back in the Army. Went to the recruiter, told them the story. They took me to MEPS, and I'm literally this close to going back in. And the head doctor at MEPS looked at my file, and he's like, no, there's still scarring on your retina. The chance of re-injury is too severe for us to accept you back in. Denied. And I was like, exactly what you said. I'm not injured enough to receive any type of compensation, but I am compromised enough that you won't let me be a soldier anymore. I don't think you can have both of those things.
That's right.
No.
You know?
And to the people out there who are saying that they don't think that they deserve it, they earn it, there's people worse off than them. There's people better off than you. There's people better off than you that are getting 100%. There's people better off than you in every way, mentally, physically, whatever. And they're getting a percentage from the VA. If you have a problem, especially if you did 20 years and you didn't file, or you didn't go to the appointments and do your best to get what you have rightfully earned.
Yes.
Then you need to listen to the advice that you got is, listen, do something with that money. If you don't want it, do something that you think should be done with it.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
I'm saying if I don't think I deserve $4,300 for 100% permanent total, then do you think your kids deserve it?
That's right, dude.
Do you think that that Project Refit? Do you think that
there's 100 nonprofits
a church
That's
that are doing good things.
Exactly. There's so many places that you can
45,000.
put that the government won't.
Well, bro, and also I'll tell you this, and not to go off on too much of a crazy Anderson tangent, but as you move into, I separated from government service, both as a service member and as a police officer and as a federal agent, but always under some type of government umbrella, right? Once you move into the world of entrepreneurship, you realize the government fucks you every chance they get. And I'll just give you one example. You guys pulled your truck in here and got out. You seem to be able to park in my parking lot without any issues. Everything seemed to work okay, right? This facility has been here since 2011. Long fucking time. The parking lot has worked fine since 2011. Well, the county government just realized that my parking lot didn't have a county stamp of approval on it. And they need to be able to make sure that the gravel is dense enough that a fire engine can respond to the facilities. And I never did that. So in order to have my county recognized, or my driveway and parking lot recognized as a county approved parking lot, guess what it costs for that approval rating?
$7,000.
29.
I was about to say like 20 to 30,000.
$29,000.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So you know what? I don't give a fuck about getting my measly check from the U.S. government because they have fucked me in the last year, dealing with permits, dealing with this, dealing with that, dealing with my parking lot. I'm looking at $100,000, and this is why, bro. Back when this gym had 20 members and we were more of a little club, they never fucked with us. But now we've blown up and they see this.
That's right.
And they're trying to get their little dick beaters on what I've built.
That's right.
And hey, there's a game to be played, right? Part of me wants to just say, fuck you, I'm going to do whatever I want. But the other part of me is like, man, your business is thriving right now.
Yep.
If I go into this big fight over $29,000, what is the potential outcome? Well, the worst potential outcome is all 250 of my students
That's right.
not having the jiu-jitsu that they deserve anymore.
That's right.
And so it's like I'm constantly balancing, do I say fuck you or do I play the game? And the truth is we have to balance that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have lost 100% of any type of guilt or hesitation to capitalize on my VA disability rating.
As should anybody.
That's
If
right.
you graduated a basic training at all anywhere throughout the branches, just go get your VA. Because if there's a duffel bag of money sitting in the middle of this table and we say, hey, you have the right to try and get some of that. If you don't get it, I mean, other people are just going to keep taking.
Well, here's the thing, though. Even that analogy might give this misconception that there's a pot of money and there's only so much that can be taken out, right?
That's true.
And it's like if I take my VA disability rating
Taking
money
from someone
out,
else.
I may be taking from someone else.
You're not.
And that's not how it works, dude.
You actually help more people.
Yes.
Actually.
And as long as they're going to give all of our fucking tax dollars to all these other motherfuckers all over planet Earth, I have no fucking I have no issues with soldiers and Marines and fucking sailors being taken care of either.
Damn right, dude. So a couple things I from all of the things that we've said, from the learning how to move forward, learning how to, really take ownership of your life again, get what you deserve, all that stuff. A couple things pointed out to me really, really clearly, which is something I came up with only a couple months ago to kind of sum everything up. What do you do? Alpha? Okay. Alpha brain.
So not nicotine, because I'm done with nicotine, THC,
Okay.
and alcohol. So these are nootropic pouches, and it's literally L-tyrosine, GABA, and caffeine.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
So yeah.
I'm trying to find, cause I just put in a pouch too, but it's a nicotine pouch. But okay. So
and I love nicotine.
Yeah.
But I'm taking a break from it.
Yeah. I took like a year and a half actually off of nicotine for a while, and then I was like, I want to do it again. But anyway, so what I was going to say is I came up and I realized something recently that So the pain and suffering is the ink to the pen that writes a story of your life. What you do with that pain and suffering is you have to pass it on, which is the importance of mentorship, the importance of learning from others and listening to others. That's everything Refit, right? What we just did is what we try to explain to guys and take that positive like look, and it's a reframing aspect and reframing exercise, right? And then if you go back to all the way back to when we're talking about your buddy that went to the healing retreat to talk to the horse, I want you to replace the horse with a human being and then say it to the other person and look at the other person while you're saying that. And that's what mental combat is around the fire. Also, the way we do things is, which by the way, it brings a whole different element when you're saying it to a human. And it's even more challenging and even more healing. And the other side.
Although I kind of like animals more than most people, so.
Right. But imagine.
Might make it easier.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the human.
No, that's right. But it does make it easier.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm also fucking crazy in some ways. And I know that easy isn't always the right answer. I'm glad it worked for your buddy, but imagine him trying to say it to another human.
Yeah.
Right. That's a whole other challenge, and even bigger challenge, even more, if you take it seriously, even bigger healing effect that transforms people's lives. I've watched it. I can give one of my favorite stories about it, but we also go to bison ranches. Here's a really cool fact about bison. So it's the only cattle animal that will go into the storm and walk through it. They get out sooner. When a cow goes, when a storm is coming, like a winter storm is coming, the cow runs away from it and they die more often. They are dying by the hundreds or thousands, depending on the size of the herd. The bison get through it sooner, so they survive it, right? So you have to face your storm and get through it. And then let's do that around that fire. That's kind of one of the things that we do. And in grounding as well, to bring all the way back to grounding and everything as well, the importance of that is even like we're on these regenerative ranches, which is a really cool concept that Turner Enterprises is doing a lot of that. And he was a Coast Guard vet, by the way, Ted Turner, the CNN guy and everything. He sold it years ago. Turner Classic Movies, all that. Regenerative ranching, you allow to put you're actually putting your feet. We dug out holes and put our feet inside of soil that hasn't been touched in thousands and thousands of years. It is the way that it's supposed to be. The energy you felt from that, the coolness, and the soil felt different. Everything was so natural that it was the most calming thing ever. That's like when you do things like that, that's what people remember most, and you get to bring that tool back with you. But going back to the quote of the pain and the suffering, writing your story, if you are able to inject those positive things and then pass that on to someone else, that inherently gives you your truth to be able to pass on to others, to give you purpose. The pursuit of what is my next purpose and mission is exactly embedded in your pain and your suffering that you went through, no matter what it is. That is power. That's individual power. That's your internal world affecting other people and helping other people, which goes back to the culmination of the entire beginning of Refit. I recognized that the way warriors are talked to these days, even with like the VA benefits and stuff like that, individuals go in there, end up believing everything that's thrown at them. Before I talk about that, I have to give an analogy to make it even more powerful and understanding. When you're told you have PTSD, a lot of guys buy into that like they're done forever, right? There's no way out. That is they're diagnosed. That's a spell. There's a spelling to it. There's a spell. So witches who cast spells, right? By the way, this is an analogy, a metaphor, however you want to look at it. That words have genuine power. What are you giving power to in your mind? How are you going to give that word power, and how are you going to not give it power? Are you going to be able to grow from it? PTS growth, if you will, right?
That's why a lot of people have removed the D from it.
Right, exactly. Sure.
Because you attach the word disorder. Well, I'm fucked up now.
I'm fucked up
There's something
forever.
wrong with me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's that spelling. There's a reason why people attack words all the time. And this actually goes to the tangent that I wrote out on the plane yesterday, was when you go all the way down to the thoughts and what's a good thought, or what's an inspirational or a important confidence is what I came down to. What is important? What hold inside of it for confidence? Important is the armor to that confidence, which goes to the thought. Your thoughts are internal, your internal world. And then you have another side of your thinking, which is the math side, which manipulates the real physical world, right? So if you think about it, if you're giving these negative words like the witches give and cast that spell on you, like you have PTSD or you're just going to be a victim for the rest of your life, you will hold on to that and you will buy into that because the word is the sound in your mind that becomes who you are. But you can manipulate that word into being a positive one, right? So you actually end up, if you can get the warrior to recognize, or even the soldier, the sailor, whatever it might be, the ability to come back to a civilian world that is free and show them that you can grow from your time in service, no matter what it was. It's insanely inspiring for a reason. There's a reason why so many civilians follow you here and listen to your podcast. They want to find their purpose beyond what they're going through personally. Mm-hmm. And they will listen to you and give you that credence, which adds in that extra responsibility, which a lot of, I think, veterans shy away from, which is a tragedy because you can judge an entire society. This is one of my realizations back when I was at Columbia. A nation is the same as a person. How healthy a nation is and how healthy a person is, they rely on very similar things.
Yeah.
Very similar things.
It goes back to like what we talked about, how individual personal excellence is what builds a powerful nation.
Buy into that because that's real. Your corporations, all these things are just people made up of it, inside of it, right? So the American spirit is the free spirit, not like free, hippie free, the actual free mind to take what you need to do in your personal life to make your family safe and secure.
Yeah.
Right? So if we can begin to heal arguably the most inspirational type of story type, right? The ink to the pen that writes the story of your life. Everybody's a story. We talked about chapters multiple times in this podcast so far. Chapter in your life, chapter in your life. We're talking about stories constantly. And if you want to become a victor in your story, not a victim, right? That's something Wade always says. I think that's a very common mantra. Wade is one of the other high leaders in Refit. Great guy, combat vet, awesome dude. If you become the victor and can change it from being the victim of blaming everyone else around you and all that shit, I'm broken, I'm this, I'm that. And if you begin to go, how can I grow from this so I can pass it on to other people and show them how to grow, the whole nation will heal together, right? So you are only as strong as your weakest link internally and externally within the society itself. So that's why changing the individual themselves is the most important thing, which is why you are attracted to this, because you want to be a mentor to other people and lead other people in that direction, because inherently you know that's how my family is going to be better off when I have better people and better neighbors around me.
The first conversation I ever had with Wade was that video chat we were on.
Yeah.
And I said 95% of barriers are mental. And Wade loved it. And he hit me with one that was, if something is in the way, it is the way. So you have
Very stoic.
you have PTSD, you have post-traumatic stress disorder. Your life might be in disorder because you've bought into this spell we're talking about.
Yes.
That does not mean that you cannot restore order.
That's right.
You have to go through what is in the way to better yourself. You have to want to better yourself. You have to acknowledge, you have to be accountable to yourself that you have not been X, Y, and Z, and that you know how to be, or you're going to find out how to be. If you are building a box and you all you have is a piece of wood, you don't have a saw, what are you going to do? You're going to go get a saw. If you're going through life and you don't have the tools to cope with what you've been through, you don't have the tools to be a gentle parent is what is popular nowadays. You don't have the tools to be an exemplary husband. Go get the tools.
Right.
They're out there. And as soon as people realize that, oh, I don't have to be this. And in chasing my 20-year career, there was a point where I had been home 2 months out of the whole year, between schools and other places. And my wife was like, I can't keep doing this. And that was the first time, that was before the profile came in, like just before. And that was when I realized, like, oh man, I've been a really irritable father. I've been an absent husband. I've been not a great friend. And I need to be accountable to that. And I hated myself for it.
No, I like that you said that, because a lot of soldiers kind of inevitably want to be like, well, I'm serving my country. How could you feel this way? And it's like, dude, hey, you might be doing something that in its foundation is built on honor, but your individual woman, your individual son, your individual daughter are still feeling abandonment. They're still feeling your lack of presence, your lack of input, your lack of like communication, like all that stuff. And it's like, just because you're deployed 9 months of the year and that may come from a place of honor, there's still people that are suffering as a result of that. And that doesn't mean that like, oh, my wife can't do this anymore. She doesn't support me. She's a bitch. It's like, no, man, she's a woman that needs love and being and nurture. She needs to be nurtured. And it's like, all that stuff is lost on a lot of soldiers. And bro, is it ever talked about in the Army? Maybe it is now. It wasn't when I was in, dude.
So that's something
and I can tell you, bro, Ranger relationships, Ranger marriages is some of the most alcohol-ridden, dysfunctional households I've ever fucking seen in my entire life, dude.
I don't know much about the actual relationship between back in the fight. Lost his leg, got back in battalion. I can't remember his name. But he said his wife has the medal of a Ranger. And ever since I read that, I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, they say spouse is the hardest job in the military, and that's laughable sometimes.
I don't know, bro.
But it does take a lot of mettle. It does take a lot of determination. And
well, dude, at least for me, being deployed would be hard for me for about a week because it's like this massive life shift.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not with my girlfriend anymore. Everything's different, and then you fall into your op tempo. Yep. And then, to tell you the truth, deployment life is some of the easiest periods of time in my entire life.
I hear that all the time.
That doesn't mean it wasn't dangerous.
Sure.
But I wasn't worried about fucking bills. I wasn't worried about what my fucking girlfriend was upset about. I wasn't worried about fucking like anything.
Yeah, you can be offshore. You can be on Pacific pathways. You could be on
the mountains of Afghanistan.
You can be on an operational deployment. You're worrying about yourself. You come home and now you have these other humans to worry about again. And that's
where you just said military spouse is one of the hardest jobs, is because, dude, when my wife was home, like, she's not only dealing with the separation of the relationship, but she has all of her real life to fucking deal with on a day-to-day basis too. And we can't really conceptualize what that stress feels like.
I looked at it objectively after the fact, and while I was gone for the longest period of time, my wife and I have two daughters. At the time, they were 4 and 8, and during the time I was gone, we had a house burned down. It wasn't the one we lived in, but it was a property of ours that had to be dealt with. A house burnt down. She got rear-ended. Somebody hit and run. They left. And she was in the last semester of her master's program. So
just, all kinds of stress on life, compounding on stress. Dude.
Life at that point was awful. And I was doing I got him. If I make E8 or E9 and retire, we're set. And that's great. It's very honorable, and I commend everybody who's done it. That's awesome. What do you have at the end of it? You need to look, if you're looking at your physical body as to what your quality of life is going to be like after the military, when you're making a decision to allow, I guess, if you have a provider that will discuss it with you, a P3, a med board, then why are you not looking at that with the relationships in your life? If you know that this relationship is the most important thing that you're ever going to have, and I'll say you and your child, or you and your spouse, why are you not looking at what is this military career going to cost me emotionally, relationship-wise? So,
well, bro, I mean, one of the jokes inside of fucking the special operations community for a long time was like, to be in the special operations community, a prerequisite is a divorce.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? And it's like, everybody knows that the military lifestyle is not really congruent with family life.
No.
And
same thing with law enforcement.
If they wanted you to
with law enforcement,
they wanted you to have a wife, they'd have issued you one.
But I mean, and bro, like to tell you the truth, my last deployment was my wife sent me a fucking picture of a pregnancy test, and she's like, dude, I can't do this with you gone all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it's time to look into other options. Now, a lot of guys that, you know, they're 8, 10, 12 years in, they're like, dude, well, I only got 8, 10, 12 to go. But good luck managing a relationship for that amount of time.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what I was saying, like, dude, 10 years of carrying a gun and being a cool guy, and then it's probably time to move on. And if you don't move on, just know that it's going to come with heartache, and it's going to come with some fucking problems. And I'm sure there's some outliers who did a 25-year career and have like a perfect family life and shit. But I promise you guys, that is the exception. That is not the rule.
I promise you that person missed something that was extremely important to one of their family members. But I'll also say, I lost my train of thought. Where was I? The family life. By the end of my career, I would have not had a relationship with my children, and I don't know that I would have had any type of intimate relationship with anyone.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter, I missed her first birthday, her second birthday, and I got home halfway through the day on her third birthday. I wasn't there for a full birthday until she was 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I ruined that. I was so irritable and upset that I ruined that. And if you are accountable to yourself, you're going to hate yourself, and let it happen. Don't sit in it. Like, don't sit in the storm. Mm-hmm. If you don't make a decision to move, you will die.
That's right.
And you've heard that in training. This is in your head. If you don't make a decision to pick up and move forward and not dwell on what you've done or who you've been, you will die. Who you are as a person will not be realized.
Right.
And
so truth is so important.
So I hated myself for it. And eventually I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to be that person. That's it. Like, it's factual when my wife brings it up. Like, you used to be very irritable. You used to be gone all the time. Like, yes, that is factual.
Well, bro, I even take it a step further. Like, not only did I miss, like, oh, I'm deployed for Christmas. Oh, I'm deployed for this birthday. Oh, I'm deployed for that holiday. Not only did I miss all that stuff, I didn't fucking care, because I was like, it's just a fucking day. It's not important.
Mm-hmm.
It's your birthday. Get over it. I'll see you when I get home, right? But just because it's not important to you, is it important to that other person? You know, is it important? And I actually left that lifestyle behind when I had children, like I said. So I didn't go through that, like missing daughters' birthdays or things like that. But I remember when I was deployed, I just like, yeah, it's just another day. People want to attach all this value to it. But to me, it's just another day. And that's why I don't care if I'm deployed on Thanksgiving or if I'm deployed on Christmas. And all that's really doing is telling yourself a story so you don't have to confront the fact that, hey, you being gone is fucking painful for some people.
You're lying to yourself.
Yeah, it's painful for other people in your life.
I think that's something that happens a lot, actually. That exact story is something I hear. That's one of the things I try to talk to, like when I'm like the bridge from military to civilians, and I try to explain to civilians like what the real sacrifice is. It's not that you're lying to yourself, even though I'll get into that, but it's the time that you're giving. That's the biggest. It's really one of the biggest sacrifices, right? Is you are sacrificing so much time to the mission to keep America safe and keep that First Amendment, where it is, to allow that healing to happen. And like, when I mention time to a civilian, that's when they're like, oh, wow. Okay. Because that is your most valuable asset.
Yeah.
And then what else you're doing, this is another major sacrifice, is you're beginning to develop a pattern. I talk about this, the brain pattern of thinking. You're developing a pattern of lying to yourself and then believing that lie. And you're losing who you are by doing that. Mm-hmm. Because who you truly are, you're the guy that goes, yeah, I want you to come on the podcast. Let me clear it with my wife real quick. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You give a shit about your family. You respect your wife. You love her. You say, of course, now.
Yeah. Well, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I can't be on patrol in Afghanistan
Right.
and be fucking
That's
sad
that
that it's
sacrifice.
Jenny's birthday.
That's exactly right, brother.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right.
Like those two things can't mutually exist.
That's exactly
so
right.
then you tell yourself a story. It doesn't fucking matter.
That's exactly right.
I
You know?
never understood the impact it had on my family until I told my oldest daughter, she's 10 now. So her whole life was just me in a revolving door. Her mom too, for the first 5 years of it. I didn't understand the impact it had until I told my daughter that I wasn't going to have to leave anymore. And she cried.
Oh, fuck.
That's
dude.
heavy.
How old was she?
She was 10, or she was 9. She just turned 10 this year. So she was 9, and she cried. She was like, really? You're not? They're not? What's your commander's not sending you anywhere anymore? And it's a lot to explain to a kid, but like she was so happy that I wasn't going to have to leave anymore that she started crying.
Man, I can feel that from
Yeah, me
across the
too.
table.
You almost cried.
You know what I'm
That
saying,
was
dude?
deep.
No, I didn't.
But bro, hey, that's like,
No, for real. I almost did
I
because
know, I
it's
heard it.
really powerful.
It is.
And I'm glad to say that after doing the work and realizing that I was an absent husband and an irritable father, I've done the work. I found out who I was. And there's no process for that, by the way. I actually did an exercise it was immersion therapy where I woke up and lived my day like I was a 17-year-old me before I joined the military again.
I don't know what you mean.
I woke up, so I was talking to my therapist. I was like, I don't know who I am. I've been a 13 Fox. I've just been in the Army for over a decade. And I mean, other than that, I know I'm a dad. I know I'm a husband. I know I'm a brother. But like, this is just, I'm Sergeant First Class Murphy. That's me. So like, I don't even know what I want to do when I get out. So she was like, well, who were you before? And I had
You're like, I was just some kid getting kicked out of my house.
yeah, I was just some fuck up pothead from middle of nowhere, West Virginia. She's like, no, you had aspirations. You wanted to do things that weren't the military. That's why you went to college. What did you want to do? And so I did this immersion therapy where I woke up and I wore my old high school baseball shirt and I lived the day like I was a 17-year-old me with no responsibilities. And I realized that I am so happy that I'm a 31-year-old who spent over a decade in the Army instead of living my life like that 17-year-old person was living his life. And it's not that I want to be who I was before I got in. It's that I'm a mix of those two people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really exciting to learn about yourself, is that no, you don't know who you are because your identity is stripped from you the second you get there. Your hair is not different than anybody else. You shave, you stand in line, you look the same direction everybody else does. You wear the same uniform everybody else does. You don't have an identity. And you accept that. That's fine. It's part of it. What do you do when it's all over? And everybody else has 4 years of life experience figuring out who they are, or 12 or 20. And
They never figure it out. Nobody does. It's a constant journey.
Right.
Yeah.
But figuring that out about yourself is extremely freeing. My relationship with my children is better than I ever thought it would be. My relationship with my wife is better than I ever thought it would be. And looking forward, I was just going to be an entrepreneur until I ran into Project Refit. And I was like, okay, this is real shit. This is leader. We're not holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
That's right.
We're like, can I be honest with you? Why are you even fucking worried about that?
Right.
Why are you even fucking telling yourself that? What made you think of that? Like, you're making yourself look like a victim right now, and you need to be honest with yourself. You were an absent father. You were an absent husband.
That's right. That's
okay. You don't have to be that. And showing somebody that, yes, you were I'm gonna go super harsh here because there's people out there who are gonna identify with it. You were a piece of shit. You were a piece of shit husband. You were a piece of shit dad. You're a piece of shit brother. Whatever you were, that can be true, and it doesn't have to be you anymore.
That's right.
And the people in your life that care about you will have that conversation with you. And you said something last week or early November that moving into a new chapter of your life, that means that some people just aren't going to be there. Mm-hmm. And my thought was, well, fuck them. But you said, I just appreciate the time that people spent with me in that chapter of my life.
That's right.
And we're moving on. And I was like, man, well, I still got to grow.
Well, bro, I'll tell you this, man.
That's right.
I'll tell you this because I'm 44 and it's the first time that I've arrived here where it's like, typically I've come to terms that sometimes you have to cut people out of your life. And that's not been a very difficult thing, but it's usually there's a catalyst to where it's like, that person is making bad decisions or they're becoming a shitty person, or it's like there's always something negative that you can tell yourself to why that person has to be removed from your life. This is the first time in my life I'm realizing, man, sometimes people you love deeply have to be removed from your life. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they're a bad person. It's not because it's simply your paths are not congruent anymore.
You're out of alignment now.
And you're out of alignment.
That is healthy.
And it's
way.
fucking hard.
It's very hard, but it's also very healthy. Mm-hmm. It's also that's where when people talk about stoicism and stuff, they always go like, oh, well, you don't care. Exact opposite. In fact, I can make a perfect argument for this. It's a physical thing that happened. I don't remember the guy's name or anything like that, but there was an injury that happened to a person who was a phenomenal engineer, right? It was a brain injury he had, and he literally lost all emotion, all of it. And he wasn't able to do math effectively anymore or make decisions anymore. That means that it's a requirement to have emotions, but it's a requirement also in stoicism, if you will, to take the emotions, understand the emotions, and use them for the right decision, no matter how difficult it is. So it's a requirement to be a human being to have the emotions. People are afraid of emotions, not using them or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you want to be effective and or efficient or any of that, be a better husband, father, a wife, mother, you need to have the emotion tied to it. You need to make those right decisions based on those emotions and then understanding the logic behind them. That is critical. That's the action piece behind thought and thinking. That's that pattern of thought. That's why it's so difficult. That's why I think Carl Jung is the one that said, for real change to happen, it requires immense pain, right? Yeah. Now the pain, that's where actually a part of my thought trail that I had yesterday was pain is not always a physical pain. There's a mental pain, which is sometimes actually worse than the physical pain that you have to understand and then control, which is why Vincent, he conquers who conquers himself. Throughout history, we've had breadcrumbs from these brilliant philosophers on how to actually heal yourself. That's why psychology came from philosophy and why psychology is just the science behind it, the numbers. It's almost it's dehumanizing the thought, right? But it's critical to understand like the breaking down the patterns and try to move it forward from a scientific perspective, whatever. I think it's bureaucratic nonsense bullshit sometimes, which is why podcasts are so important and having real conversations. But if you can get to the point where that that emotional pain, you can feel it and it sucks so bad to cut that guy because you love him, but in your heart that it's still, you can't have that person anymore in your new chapter in your life. Yeah. You have to commit to that pain. You have to commit to that painful decision because it's what Wade said, that is the painful decision. That's the way to go. Yeah. It's easy to take the drugs. It's easy to drink yourself into a fucking coma. It's easy to do all these terrible fucking things. It's actually so much easier. What's really difficult is to control that pain into turning it into a purpose.
Yeah. No, and I like that you keep referencing like stoicism because I'm fascinated by a lot of those guys too. Yeah. Like I'm sure you probably have the Daily Stoic books like that.
I have it with me on the plane.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
I didn't dive into
or
it. Or
meditations from Marcus Aurelius and all that stuff. Yep. And you're absolutely right.
That's the one I have in my bag.
It's not having those emotions.
That's right.
It's not allowing those emotions to influence your decision making.
It is allowing it to influence your decision making.
Well, let me retrace my steps.
Got you.
It is not allowing those emotions to influence your decision making in the moment.
Amen.
Those emotions are present.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And have you ever looked into like Viking runes and those type of things, because it's very similar to this kind of stuff.
Very cool.
And I did a rune reading, and they pulled this rune called Thorizaz, and the symbol of it is a thorn on a rose bush, right? And it symbolizes protection and the best offense is a good defense, and like being able to be very dangerous, kind of like what Jordan Peterson talks about. If you're not dangerous, you're not a good man. You're just an incapable man. A good man is someone who is highly dangerous, but has control over that aspect of himself. And that's what this rune represents. And the reason I bring it up is because it part of this reading said exactly kind of what you said. It's like, hey, when the storm hits, you're going to feel chaos. You're going to feel rage. You're going to feel anger. And the key to Thorizaz is feeling all those emotions, but not allowing those emotions to be what dictates the decision that you land on.
Right.
You have to dictate the decision that you land on from a place of calm understanding. And here's the interesting thing about the Vikings approach to it. Where you land may be a fucking highly volatile and violent decision.
Yeah.
Where you go behead somebody, right?
Yeah.
But even if that's where you land on, it's not because you're filled with out of control fucking berserker chaotic rage. It's because this is the right thing to do.
Right.
Right? And it's pretty interesting.
I want to also say you actually talked about, this is my point. There's two emotions that you actually did bring up, and you are using emotion to influence your decision. But what emotion are you using to influence your decision? If you, in a calm state, instead of a chaotic state, come to the decision to utilize anger and chaos.
Yeah.
That is the stoic side.
Yes.
It's like, all right, this is the appropriate direction for me to go. Let me release that.
Being intentional about acting within alignment.
I'm going to give jujitsu. It's the perfect example
Bro,
for jujitsu.
always bring
Ready?
it back to jujitsu.
I'm going to, because this is it, right? I was told, one of the coolest things that was told to me by my professor was control the violence. So what he meant by that was, in a moment, because I'm a wrestler. We were fucking, 6
Violent
minutes.
from bell to bell.
7, exactly.
Yeah.
Nonstop go. Jiu-jitsu can last for a long time. Use that violence at the appropriate time. If you see an opening, like a split second opening to take a position that is good for you, violently take it.
Yes.
Right. And then get stuck again into that spot and control that person into that position. Right. And once you control that person into that position, you can begin to work on whatever you want from there.
Yes.
You're dictating what you're doing through that controlled, from a calm state, choosing violence quickly, and then control again.
Back to the calm state.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's
why jiu-jitsu mirrors life.
It mirrors life.
And bro, I
Really
wish, because when I'm on the mats, I do have that capability.
Yes.
As a 3rd degree black belt, I always say I have this dial from 1 to 10, and I'll turn it up and down wherever I need to capitalize on opportunities.
Yep.
And then also manage my energy, right?
That's right.
So I'm always turning that dial up and down. When I'm out in the real world, I don't have as good of control of that dial.
Same.
And someone flips me off and it's like, fuck you, motherfucker. And then it's like, oh, I'm out of control of that dial. And it's like, I honestly feel like at 44 years old, I got control of that dial on the mats, years ago. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm just starting to control that dial in life.
Love that. And I thought you were going to go in a different direction. I very much don't care when somebody flips me off. I laugh. But
well,
when it comes to
right?
entrepreneurship and like building a business, that's where my mind went to immediately. And it does depend, absolutely. But I actually am right now learning how to control my 0 to 60, or for me, like 600. Like I am learning now that there is a time to take a step back, right? And it was actually described to me by Wade. Wade was like, sometimes to take a better position in combat, we have to take a step back, right? We have to like fall back to another, or what you said,
retrograde.
Retrograde. And it's like retreating. You're just gaining more position, right? A better position to then go attack.
Yeah.
So for me with entrepreneurship, I noticed that, I'm doing something. I am like the poor Gary Sinise, right? Like I am the dude that's like, I'm doing so much for others and I have like no money. So like, so it's a,
you didn't play Lieutenant Dan, bro.
Exactly. Get me into a movie. Let's go.
Set yourself up for life.
I could put on a, voice, but like you have to take a step back. You have to see what are you at? I just did it recently with Tucker and we were talking about it and I developed like an organizational plan, but I did that from a calm place. Like, let me really intentionally think about using my emotions intentionally. I had to intentionally think about the development of this organization. On paper, we are massive. Our organization is seriously massive. We didn't even touch the surface on all the things that we do.
Well,
right?
I want, as part of, before we close this out, I should deep dive into what Refit is, the resources available, how to all that stuff.
Yeah, we will. Okay. I'm loving this conversation now. So for entrepreneurship and how I connect to it is like, I have to take that step back and control that emotion so I don't burn out eventually. People told me you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. I was like, you don't know who you're talking to. There's no way I'm burning out, right? There's ways to just burn fiery. I'm a redhead. I burn fiery hot. You know what I mean? Like I'm going.
It's also why people flip him off.
Yeah, that's right.
I have 3 students out of my 250 that are redheads. And all 3 of them were savage.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers.
That's right, dude.
And I actually came across this thing the other day and it said redheads. And this isn't like some philosophical thing. I guess they've actually done tests.
Yep.
Feel pain on a lower level.
Yep, I just said that to him because we're mutants. literally, it's a mutation that we have.
And when I read that, like,
that's why I could take that pain. By the way, that's why my doctor was blown away. I could continue. He literally said to me, "I don't know how you're walking."
Bro, I'm telling you, like I read that, it just came across one of my feeds, and I opened it up, and then I thought, like, oh, out of all my students, I have 3 redheads. Oh. Yep, they're
more anesthesia, everything. We have to have more of everything that requires like to numb pain. We need more of it, and to not feel the pain. I remember distinctly when I was a kid, I was getting like something done on my teeth. They gave me the laughing gas, didn't work. I felt the whole procedure, the entire procedure. I'll never forget it. And like I didn't say anything because I was like, oh, this is
what it is.
Yeah, and like I just went through it, and but anyway, like that pain, the feeling of pain, I have learned in my life is absolutely, those are the things that have become so profound for me to share with other people. Right. And like that really and genuinely and truly is what we're trying to get across here at Refit is stop buying into the DSM-5 as your end all be all, you're done. Right. That's the witch's spell book, right? Like you don't have to buy into those words that people are throwing in your mind. Like it sounds crazy. It sounds bullshitty. But like you said, if you really buy into making your life better, if you really buy into the fact that you're accountable, truly accountable to yourself, then you are going to be able to change your life and everything around it. I'm not talking about becoming the president of the United States. It could be as small or as profound, really. And words are not profound. The action by the words is profound. That's what I think. And if you actually sit there and you take in all of these negative things and then you get to turn around and conquer like alcoholism, sex addiction, drug addiction, all these different things that you might be, the negative brain pattern, those thoughts that are constantly coming in your mind. If you can learn to be in a state where it's almost like a meditative state where you're in the moment and you're in a panic attack and you're able to just control the environment to stop and you get to just and literally imagine just a breath coming out of your mouth like a waterfall and you hear the words that are in your mind, the ones that are not real, the ones that he brought up, like who's saying that to you? You wouldn't say that to me, right? And that's one of my favorite memes is where it's this little guy and this guy's talking super negative, 2 friends, and it's the importance. Actually, this is everything Refit. One guy's saying a bunch of negative shit. His buddy's next to him. His buddy's looking at him like, what the fuck? Why are you saying about my boy? And he literally pulls off the top of his head, pulls out his brain, has a knife to his brain, like, stop talking bad about my friend, right? Because that's not who you are.
Yeah.
If you can buy into that shit, you are going to change your entire fucking life. It's real.
Bro, it's so fucking real. And I feel fucking crazy sometimes because over this last month going through some of the emotions that we kind of touched on a little bit, and I've touched a lot about it on the last several weeks, but like as soon as the voice started saying things to me And I'm not speaking any of this out loud. It's all in my head.
That's right.
I'm like, no. I'm not going to think about wanting to hurt this person or wanting to do this or I'm just going to say a mantra in my brain
Yes.
of like love, joy, happiness, growth. Love, joy, happiness, growth. Love,
Yes.
joy, happiness, growth. And I'm laying in my bed because I have insomnia like a motherfucker, man. And it's the middle of the night. And what happens in the middle of the night, at least in my brain, that's when the dark thoughts try and fucking take a front seat.
So many of us, yeah.
And it's, no. I'm not even going to hear your words because I'm going to fucking be chanting a mantra over the top of them. And for whatever reason, bro, it was helping dramatically.
That's right.
You know?
You're counting sheep or love.
Yeah. You know? And
Love
it's
is
like,
the
dude,
answer. You got to love yourself.
Yeah, you can fucking let that evil voice, and that's what a lot of people believe it is. It's an evil force, an evil force.
Your spirit, bro.
Yeah. And it wants to fucking say these evil things to you, and I'm not going to listen.
That's right.
And it's like a full on conversation, and it's all happening between your fucking ears.
Inside.
It's nuts, man.
It is. And one of my favorite things I ever did in my life, was I did ketamine therapy, and that was one of my favorite moments I ever had in my life because I was able to truly dive inside and really go internal to figure out what's my purpose. What I learned from that, this is going to sound fucking crazy. What I learned is that, and I've heard it actually ever since that moment, I've heard it so many times in the past year and a half, is words, my words really can burn cities, right? So what that meant actually in reality is you can change you can burn everything if you want and start fresh. Fire actually is useful for forests to grow. You need fire. Because a lot of seeds break down from the fire to plant new. When you're, and the concept is here, when I listen to a lot of these, I've talked to, at this point, thousands of veterans, right? Special forces guys, all the way down to the dude that's driving the trucks, right? And the number one thing is they burned, you actually just alluded to it. You have so much, you burned hot for 12 years in your example, right? Burned hot. You burned hot for however many years you were in, right? And your deployments, all this shit, you weren't thinking about anybody else. You were burning those relationships to focus on mission. And then when you came back, you were planted.
Yeah.
You were actually planted for a new you that needs to be born and grow. And that is the opportunity immediately when you're out. You sign that DD-214, you're gone.
Yeah.
Right? You're out. You go out the doors and who the fuck am I now? It's scary. It's terrifying. All that shit. We had a guy, his name is Ray Boughton, Recon Marine, fucking love Ray. He's actually one of the few dudes I have like really deep, like philosophical conversations with. And when we're out in Montana, we got to the point where it's like, hey man, your chapter. Instead of it being a scary time, what an exciting time this is.
Yeah.
There's a dark place, you're in it, and you are now having the opportunity to define your new light. You're going to be able to shine light in the areas that you want, and you give that power instead of what the past was. Your past is what it is. That builds up to the truth that you have now, but you are the only one. You are the only person in your life that can define what that future truth is. And in reality, nobody can do it for you. That's why it goes into conversation within Refit to bring it into Refit. One of the things that bothers me from a leadership perspective within Refit, I hate bureaucracy. And I think bureaucracy dehumanizes things and takes away conversations that need to be had, right? This podcast, for example, is so many people are going to listen to this thing and hear us talk about all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. This is the modern campfire or the modern storyteller on top of that soapbox being able to say things out to people, right? And that there's a reason why the kings were so scared of that, right? And the leadership was so scared of that because that changes people's minds. You can win an entire war without sending a bullet. How? Why is that? Why does that make so much sense to every human being, whether you're in combat or a warrior or not, right? Civilian or in the military? It makes sense because we all understand the power of those words and the words you're using and saying to yourself, right? So if you begin to get into the headspace of allowing people to, instead of like you go in, you talk to a guy and then they're like, okay, why do you feel like you don't want to wake up every day? Like you take a test or like a survey to gauge the psychologist gets a gauge or the certified peer gauges it. And then the certified peer can't say anything beyond that except for their own lived experiences to that person. Like if you told me that you don't want to wake up and you don't want to get out of bed sometimes, I immediately am going to be like, why, dude? Let's talk about it, right? then that person in that bureaucratic stance and like the VA, let's say, can't do that. They can't ask that question. They can't ask you that very direct question. They kill curiosity, right? Which means you're a drone again. So how can we get around that? You have to create an organization that brings back the conversations between people like we're having right now, right? We need to bring that back. We need to talk to each other again, get local, right? Have these literal fires where people get to do a day of community service together. And then after doing the community service together, they get to talk to each other, or they do jujitsu together and then they talk together afterwards, or they go shooting or whatever. And they talk, they get to know each other again, right? That's where, when you rebuild the community that way, that's when you see things change again. People are going to be happier. I mean, Native Americans, one of my favorite things, Zach, very inspirational for why we have mental combat on our retreats, is Native Americans, the warriors or the hunters would come back, they would do the sun dance, and a part of the sun dance is men, women, older men, women, and children would be around the fire. The warriors or hunters, both, they were one and the same, would be in the center. They would cause self-harm to each other themselves. It would cause physical self-harm to feel the pain of that hunter and of that warrior so that the warrior knew they weren't alone in the tribe. They were all bleeding and hurting together with you. That is insanely powerful. So if we can take that,
imagine like,
bro,
the concept of that in the Western world sounds fucking nuts.
But hang on,
No,
right.
but bro,
It's real.
I'm down with it.
Yeah. So what we do, instead of the self-harm, I want you to say those words you're saying to yourself to me.
Yeah.
I want to feel that fucking pain with you, right?
Yep.
Once you begin to feel that pain with that person, you are now connected and bonded beyond measure, right? There's a reason why blood is thicker than water. It's actually the water of the womb and the blood shed on the battlefield. That is what blood is thicker than water means. Not like your family. It's the exact opposite. It's like if you and I went to war together and then we shed blood together, we are bonded deeply. That's why jujitsu works so well, right? That's why those combat sports, the bond is different inside the combat sports realm than any other sport out there. Maybe football comes close, but like, because you're
But it's that
working
same
together.
idea. That's the same thing though.
In a
It's
way.
the combat aspect.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. You're a team, mission forward, violence
Yeah.
is used, all that shit.
Very intimate. You know why they wear face masks in football, right?
They don't want to kiss.
Stop the players from kissing.
So, but the whole concept comes down to let's feel the pain together so we can move forward together, right? Because and that goes back to, in a free society like we live in, we do have the miracle of freedom of speech, because freedom of speech means you are free to think the actual truth for you.
Yeah.
You get to learn, but then it has to have the morals and the values tied to it, which is so critical and important. What are my morals and values that I'm operating within to have that truth, which goes back to the spirit? That is fucking fantastic if you begin to think about it in a very positive way instead of the negative.
Bro, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I love what you guys are saying and what you're doing.
We're eliminating the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Like even with our SOPs, what's the first thing I said to you? I was like, dude, like when you develop SOPs, I want you to know, like as you go through Refit, those are just guidelines. I don't want people I don't want to tell you how to think anymore. Stop.
Yeah.
People have told individuals how to think forever. How do you think? Learn how to think for yourself. Stop outsourcing fucking everything. We're outsourcing our thought even, right? The best therapists, the black sheep of the therapist realm and psychiatrist and psychologist realm are those who say, I don't want you in here forever. That's a great psychologist or a therapist.
Yeah.
They want you to go out and learn to think for yourself.
Yep.
Because you have to. They'll give you the tools like Tucker was talking about. Use those tools and then go out and where are you going to practice them?
My therapist
That's where Refit comes in.
kicked me out.
Yeah.
She's like, Greg, we're to a point now where I feel like this is more of a hangout session than you needing to learn tools and techniques and,
That's right.
and ways to implement certain strategies to become better. It's like, if you need to touch up,
That's right.
you
like
start
a checkup.
you the wheels start to fall off. I'm still here for you, but I don't really think I need to see you anymore.
Get the fuck out of my office. That's right.
That's how
Get
mine.
the
That's
fuck
how
out of
mine
my
is right
office.
now, and I'm just like, I'll see you in 6 weeks then, right? She's like, yeah, we'll do 6 weeks, okay.
Right.
But she's definitely getting at like, are you sure you want to come back?
Right. And that's a good thing. Like you graduate therapy, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
And you know what else she said to me, which sounds kind of harsh, and I still don't know where I land on this. And she's like, and just so we're clear, like, if you see me at the grocery store, like, don't say hi to me.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
we're not friends.
Separation.
Yeah,
that's
we're
right.
not friends. This is a professional relationship. And she goes, and don't mistake that for like me not, I think you're a great person. I have nothing but admiration for you.
Yeah.
But this is what our relationship is, and this is why it works.
That's
I
right.
was like, all right, well, fuck you then.
That's right. That's right.
No.
That's right.
Yeah, but no, I really appreciate that because
That's
that's
right.
again, that's just reality.
You
know?
didn't this is why it matters so much to you inherently. I'm going to take a guess. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say this is why, but I'm going to take a guess as to why that matters so much even to you and why it makes sense to do that. Because you're not outsourcing your thinking to that person. If you are subscripted to therapy for the rest of your life, you are subscripted to a life of mud.
Yeah.
Who are you at that? You don't even know who you are. You will never figure it out.
That's why, like, initially I was so anti-therapist because it's like, I don't need to go to some fucking office where some fucking person is going to tell me what they think of me and why I'm this or why I'm that. And then I realized I was just looking at it all wrong. Really, it's just another person that can offer a perspective. And then you have to ruminate on the ideas or the techniques and come to your own conclusion, right?
Yeah.
And it ended up being very beneficial.
And now you get to bring that to other people who might never go to therapy, but now because you've been through it and you know how to think for yourself, you can talk to that person, tell them truths about themselves that you're seeing, which is critical. The community aspect is so critical. You cannot heal if you do not have a community of people literally phically around you.
No, that's exactly it. And it's funny because like
physically,
there's a million different things you can go out and find, like, let's take veterans on a fishing trip or a hike, or let's do this or let's do that. There's literally millions of things.
Yeah.
And in my experience, what you guys have landed on is the best option out there. Sit around a campfire
100%.
and fucking talk to each other.
Exactly.
And put your fucking phones away.
That's right.
And fucking look at each other's faces.
That's right.
And fucking look each other in the eyes and talk to each other.
Yep.
You know, I just went to a long-range shooting course in Montana, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago now. And we were only out there for a few days. And then on the last day, the owner of the ranch said, "Hey, my wife's cooking dinner, and if anyone wants to join, you guys can come up to the cabin and like cook dinner before you guys drive home." And it was the course had come to a conclusion. And there was only like maybe 10 or 12 people. And every single person's like, "Yeah, I'll do dinner with you tonight." And so everybody was cool. Everybody got along throughout the weekend. But it wasn't until we sat around and had a meal together.
Damn right.
Bro, by the end of that evening, which went late, it went to like fucking 2 a.m. or something like that. No one wanted it to end. And now those guys are fucking like texting me. Guy came out and trained with us one night. And it's like in a matter of probably 5 hours, a real connection was formed amongst people. That's and right. You had people being vulnerable. You had people talking about how they don't like what they don't like about themselves and all this shit, dude, that like so many people don't have an avenue to get off their chests.
That's really
And it was just kind of a spur of the moment. Hey, my wife has extra, we just killed an elk. We have extra steaks.
Love it.
Do you guys want to do dinner with us tonight? And it turned into a therapy session, man.
Imagine setting that up 4 or 5 nights in a row.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Imagine how freeing that can be to all 12 of you.
Yep.
The truth shall set you free.
That's a retreat.
So for guys that are, it's already been 2 hours. Isn't that fucking crazy?
It's amazing. It's been great.
For guys that are in a place where they're seeking community, or where they're seeking these campfire conversations, because in my experience, one of the biggest messages that I get, you guys probably get a similar message, is it's like, man, that sounds so good, but I can't find anybody. I don't have friends local. I don't have this. I don't have that. And it's like, hey, you have to be intentional in seeking it out.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys are offering an avenue for people to seek this out.
If you set up, we call them fire teams.
Yes.
If you set it up and you have a place to have a fire and come together and have food and talk around a fire, get a hold of Project Refit.
That's right.
We will pay for that fire team.
That's right.
Every month.
That's one of the reasons why we're raising money. And that one of the problems right now with all of the outsourcing of thought And we've become obsessed in our culture for some reason, outsourcing everything, like even our manufacturing, all of it, right? We're
All of it,
outsourcing.
bro.
It's become a habit that, remember, the very beginning I said that a nation and a person are very similar. When you begin to do those things like outsourcing, even like manufacturing, you're weakening your position, right? So let's take, instead of it being manufacturing and everything, let's take it into thinking. So if you outsource your thinking and thought, you're weakening yourself and your position. So if you weaken your position, how are you going to be a more effective person for the people around you, right? So that's why the fire team concept comes into play and it becomes so powerful. If you want to take that next step and you feel inside of you that you want to do something better in your community, then you need to be the one that does it. Take the responsibility. Responsibility is freedom. Responsibility is freedom.
Well,
right?
and every single catalyst of change since the beginning of fucking mankind required one person to say, I'll go first.
That's fucking right. And the thing is that when you begin to outsource all of this, people think they can't do it.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to. So the thing that we're trying to say is like, hey, listen, we understand that, you know, it's not normal in today's world to do something like this. It's going to start out with maybe 5 guys or 3 guys that show up to the fire. But if you really are intentional about that and you don't get beat down by that and you're happy with like having that one other person there, that one other person will eventually get to 2, 3, 4. You just got to keep showing up, which is why the We Show Up mantra is here inside of Refit, which you also have to give Carr a shout out. He actually kicked the dude's door in literally to save his life. And that guy now his name is Rocco. He tells his story. He fucking drug him out into his car and drove him around until like 3 a.m. We show up. We just did it for a guy the other day. We showed up to his house. We hung out with him for hours. It was on Sunday. And we talked to him. And we're going to try to start a fire team around him in Allentown, PA. And the thing is, if you aren't there physically for the person, if you're not starting these fires and this tradition again of talking to each other in person, you're robbing us and robbing the entire society of healing together. Because the other thing is, we fought together, we heal together. That is a quote that came from one of Dan's therapists or like group therapists a long time ago. And that is that's hugely important. That stems into us taking back control. We are free people. Nobody's coming to save us. Mm-hmm. It's a real thing. I'm not saying that like the tough guy, you know, nobody's coming to save us. No. I mean that literally. Nobody's coming to save you. That means you have to be the one that steps up, which is a great thing. The government isn't going to do it. You have to do it.
Well, and fuck, that's become my podcast slogan. And I always tell people, because people sometimes try and take it out of context.
Out of
and
context,
it's like,
yep.
Here's the beauty of no one's coming to save you. Once you've stepped up and committed to saving yourself,
yep,
bro, you'll have an army of people to your left and your
Amen.
right.
Responsibility is freedom.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And now you do have a bunch of people that you can lean on.
Amen.
But until you step up and save yourself,
that's right,
those people aren't going to be there.
That's right.
You know?
Speaking of that, circling back to people being afraid when they get out and not knowing what to go do, find what you want to do. Find it. Search for it before you get out. You have time.
That's great.
Go
advice.
take it. Go take it. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it.
Right.
One, I found the opportunity with Project Refit. I'm helping. I'm not paid. I'm still in the process of my med board, and I have the opportunity to help. I want to be in a paid position with Project Refit to go help as many people as possible. And I'm taking it.
Yes.
I'm taking it, and I'm reaching out to Endless Endeavor. I'm reaching out to
Theo Vaughn.
I did. Still waiting to hear back, Theo.
Your message is still unread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reached out to Zero Foxtrot. They agreed to partner with us for a giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
Reaching out to
That goes back to no one's coming to save you.
exactly.
That's right.
Even local
you make
businesses.
it happen, or it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, go to your chamber of commerce and say, "Hey, this is my idea. This is what I'm going to do." And how do I do it better? Those people stood up businesses. Those people work in your area and know the process to have your own business.
And entrepreneurs are some of the most patriotic people you ever meet because they really understand the importance of taking control of your life.
And I was going to ask you that because, so how do the fireside chats work with you guys?
Right.
Can you go onto your website and see where geographically they are already taking place?
So we have only a few right now.
Okay.
That's something that we need to improve. We have a lot of things that we need to improve and make better. That's one of them for sure. And we need more people to step up and actually do it.
That's the problem.
That is
so you need people to step up and host them.
Correct.
They have to have literally a backyard and a fire pit.
Yes.
Like somewhere,
Right.
a physical location.
That's right.
What type of expectation? It was like what we were saying with the podcast before we were recording. The one thing that will make or break your podcast is consistency.
That's right. Consistency.
So I would say it's the same thing with this approach, right?
That's right.
Like it doesn't have to be every fucking weekend,
That's
but
right.
it could be like, hey, the second Saturday of the month
Yep.
is our fireside
Or
chat.
once a quarter.
Or whatever it
something.
is.
Yeah.
You
Right.
outline it, you set it, and this is what it is now.
That's right.
And you have to prioritize that.
That's
and
right.
you have to make sure that like what we're putting out is going to happen is actually what happens. Because if you don't, it fucking falls apart almost as fast as it started.
That's right. And here's the thing. This actually goes into the problem. And I was at a, I have to give this story around it to really exemplify and promote the problem. So I was at this like conference, or not conference, but meeting with like local, other nonprofits, things like that. Everybody, all they do is complain. Everybody complains. I literally fucking hate complaints. That's a flaw of mine, and I
It's
can't
not a flaw,
stand
bro.
but it's a flaw when I go like, geez, fuck, and I have to learn to not
allow that emotion
Exactly
to
correct.
dictate the decision you
and
make.
my response, that's right.
Yeah.
Dude. I'm dead serious. It's something I need to work on, and I am trying. If I want to be a good leader, I have to learn to take that in, absorb it, and then give something critical back that's good. So they were all complaining and shit. And I'm like, fuck, dude. And I had to speak up. I was like, listen, here's my view. If you were trying to find people that are broken, you actually need to first find the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find more leaders to then find those people. If you want to reach into the home of someone, like we're doing right now, right? Like if we want to reach into that home, you have to find the people that are willing to step up and lead, right? You have to find the leaders that are willing to give their time and find that fire and that passion to recognize this is bigger. It's bigger than you. It really is. Like it's a war. And the only way you can win a war is with great logistics. Logistics wins wars. That's a fucking fact. That is a fact. And if you want to win this psychological war, because I think we're in one, I think so many people are broken and it's on purpose and it's definitely being influenced into this country.
Bro, you're speaking my language now.
Yeah, but it's real. It real.
Is fucking
and
real.
I want people to
If
really
people don't
understand
think it
that.
is, they have their fucking blinders on.
We have the greatest, again, Western philosophy led to the United States of America. It took 2,000 plus years to lead to the United States of America, and George Washington and all those fucking guys, he was a redhead, hell yeah, saying that you must have free speech. Because free speech means you are the king. There's no kings here.
Yeah.
You're the king of your own world and life. And if you begin to rely on other people, that's Marxism, all those other things, which are negative victimhood type mentalities. Those ideologies actually matter. And it's killing people. It's killing our greatest, right? It's killing the warriors, right? It's people feel like there's no purpose. They want to find someone to blame. Someone needs to come and save me. Nobody's coming to save you is the greatest thing ever to actually understand. It is not the words that is profound. It is the actions of the words that are profound. Never forget that shit. That's the pathway to profound. So,
well, and that's why, and I mean, people are probably sick of hearing this, but there's a reason that our society is promoting everybody being fat, sick, weak, lazy, incompetent, incapable, because when you are those things, you don't get to be a
you're
free
vulnerable.
person.
You become vulnerable. That's right. Negative vulnerability
Yes.
too. And people think about, they roll their eyes. Some people roll their eyes at that shit. And let me just put it to you like this. I also am one of those people that rolls my eyes to an extent at that, because I know someone's taking it wrong. I'm not rolling my eyes at the person saying it. I'm rolling my eyes at the person that doesn't understand what's actually being said.
Yeah.
Right? It's being said that you can do this. One of the things that drives me crazy is when someone says like, oh, what you're saying is really nice and all that, but like there's some people who really can't do it. Okay.
Yeah, right.
First and foremost, the person that can't do it, because there are people like that, that again, that is the exception, not the rule. That is a person that is genuinely hurt and broken and all that shit.
And bro, those people that are broke and hurt and injured, or maybe they have some fucking crazy physical ailments
Or mental.
they can still be a better version of themselves tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And here's the thing. That's
and
absolutely
that's
right.
the path.
That's exactly
If
right.
you accept that, that is your choice. You always have a choice. And if you accept that, that is your choice.
And here's the other side of it too. I do think that those people who are the exceptions, they do need help. I'm all about that kind of
100%.
shit. They do need help. We need to help them out. We need to give them a little bit extra for sure. That's not most people. That's not most people at all. And I really believe in the foundation of this country to genuinely succeed means you have to show, and this is where the warrior comes in, the veteran, holding them to a higher standard, right? And like, I know I'm not a veteran, and I'm saying holding you to a higher standard, veteran that I'm talking to right now. Like, I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not saying that like in a shitty way or putting so much pressure on you. I'm just saying become the better version of yourself because people really do look up to you. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. It's a good responsibility. Welcome. It's a great responsibility. Man, if you can go out and mentor, which is another thing, we need more mentorship back in this country, especially for men. Yeah. We need more men with mentorship.
Put the men in mentor.
Yeah. Oh, what? Damn it. That is good. I actually like that. Put the men back in mentor.
Here all week.
But yeah. But genuinely, like if we can do that that's where the fire teams come in. You can do that. Here's a concept of fire teams. It's not just about the fireside chat that you're having. What are you doing before that fireside chat? Are you going to go talk to a high school? Are you going to go coach? Are you going to, clean up a local park? Are you going to go to an animal shelter and help out? Like, how are you leading your community and then talking about it with the community afterwards and not being afraid of asking the hard question, why do you want to kill yourself? Why do you not want to wake up? Why did you struggle today? Right? And doing the therapy session, like, oh no, that's for a therapist to do. Shut the absolute fuck up. No, it's not. That is for the community to do with each other. Now, can you go to the therapist? No, you're right. Extra help? Sure.
They probably didn't need therapists back when the Native Americans were around the fire.
Can we talk about that?
Hurting themselves.
That's
you know
real.
what I'm saying?
What did we do for thousands of years before 1889 or whatever, in 1920 when psychology became a thing? What were we doing? What were you doing in the lull of battle?
Yeah.
You were talking to each other.
Yeah.
What did
therapy just existed by the nature of how we lived as human beings.
As humans together. Yeah. Together. That's what's people like, oh, I don't know what's missing. I don't know what's. Yes, we do. What are you talking about? Say the truth. You know that you feel isolated when you're alone behind that shit. Go out to a jiu-jitsu place. Fucking go roll with some dudes. Go find a local, Dungeons and Dragons group or something.
Whoa. Hold on a second.
Yeah. I don't give a shit who you're talking to.
Go start a fire team instead.
Go talk to people. You know what I mean? Like there's so many fucking things that you can do to be around people to talk.
To all you Mortarmen out there, Dungeons and Dragons is okay.
Yeah. So we're at 2:10 and we're going to have to wrap it up pretty quick. It sounds like your call to listeners isn't, hey, if you feel like killing yourself, reach out to Refit. Now, don't get me wrong. That's an option.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But just as important is if you have a calling to be a fucking leader and you have a farm with a fucking fire pit.
Yes.
And you think you can facilitate these
things. Or a backyard.
Reach out to fucking Project Refit.
Amen.
And start like I like how you articulated it, dude. It might be two guys for a while, and the first one might feel kind of awkward because I don't know this guy, and now he's in my backyard, like whatever, right?
Yep.
It's the same. Like, bro, when I started this jiu-jitsu academy, it was fucking me, and there's plenty of practices, me and one other person, and it's kind of like, fuck, man. Like, what is this?
We have two requirements for fire team. One being don't bring your vices, don't bring your self-medication. And two being don't interrupt the person that's talking.
Yeah.
Right.
So
no weed, no alcohol, no interruptions.
That's right.
You can bring your nicotine. We don't want you to have a headache.
No cocaine.
Bring your caffeine.
Crazy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. If you smoke it or snort it or whatever, like cigarettes are okay. But don't bring your self-medication.
Yeah.
And
no, I like that. And I mean, and guys that listen to this podcast know me. Like, I am a proponent of utilizing certain substances at certain times, but also leaning into sobriety at certain times too.
That's
right.
I
think with your guys' mission, it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
It's in alignment with sobriety.
That's right. That's right.
So we have access to Canva. If you are going to start a fire team, email media@projectrefit.us and I will send you a template for a fire team ad. You just grab a Sharpie, write your town and place on it, and if you have the call to leadership to start a fire team, we will make sure that you can continue to have that fire team.
That's right.
Okay.
And another side of it.
If you do feel like you are going to commit suicide and you have a phone number to anyone in Project Refit, call it. We cancel executive meetings. We cancel organizational wide syncs just because somebody can't be there. They're helping out a veteran or a first responder.
That's right.
We can have that meeting anytime. I'm not sure that after that meeting that person's going to be alive, or they're not, or they're going to get what they need. We'll have the meeting later.
That's right. That's exactly right.
James himself cancels meetings every day. I'm just kidding. It's not every day, but he has canceled meetings because there's a veteran in
Just
need.
did it last week.
Yeah,
Man, like because it's the methodology of, if we really are trying to build a community, that means we really have to show up, right? Like that means that, I literally one time, I'll never forget, we have a mobile base, which is a truck and a trailer outfitted like a mobile VFW American Legion, which corporate sponsors, if you want to jump in and sponsor us, we need the money. So, but to sponsor even these fire teams and also the retreats and everything. But I drove it to a Marine's house, parked that fucking thing in his driveway. I'm talking 26-foot long trailer. Dropped the back out, turned on the generator, brought his ass inside, and we talked to him for hours. I don't give a fuck. We'll show up. What we're trying to do is build the most effective ground force in the United States for building community again.
yeah.
Because I look at this like a war, genuinely. And like, if you don't look at it that way, then you're going to lose. And there's no option. I don't want to lose. I personally I just had a guy he was a friend of mine and also a part of Refit. He just lost his life, right? He lost the battle to, his mental health issues, right? So, and this was like a month ago. I personally blamed myself so hardcore, but then again, I didn't, because I did everything. In fact, I did it to the point where when he got his new duty station to go away, I literally said to him, to his motherfucking face, I said, bro, are you running away? Are you running away to go fucking do the ultimate? And he's like, no. I was like, you going to quit drinking? And he's like, well, the firewall, it's gone. If you drink and you're struggling, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're destroying the firewall between life and death. And death comes in viciously, and it will come for you at the drop of a hat in minutes.
Nope. And bro, I've seen it with
I don't want to lose
a
anybody
handful
else.
of my buddies, and I've lost a lot of friends to suicide over the years, and I don't know all the details around a lot of them because I'm not going to ask, but the ones that I do have details around, they usually drink a fifth of whiskey.
Yeah.
And then they get the fucking liquid courage to shoot themselves.
That's right.
And it's, again, like, I'm not a proponent of living sober. If you enjoy having a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey with friends and you can manage it, but if you're in a dark place, trust me, cut that shit out.
Cut that shit the fuck out.
Everything in life takes 3 seconds of thoughtless motion. Everything, good or bad.
Yeah.
If you want to change your life, 3 seconds of thoughtless motion to tell yourself you're not that person anymore. Keep telling yourself that. If somebody's convinced of otherwise, 3 seconds of thoughtless motion can go in the worst direction.
That's right.
Just pick your direction, hopefully make it positive, and go.
It's a really important stat to put this out there too, that 65% of all suicides is non-combat arms.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fucking wild to think about.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you begin to think about it now, why my personal belief on why that is because the individual that's in combat has you are the one with the 99 behind you. What are those 99 feeling?
Yeah, that they're supporting the one.
The one.
Yeah.
And the one knows it. And the 99 knows it. But the 99 doesn't understand a lot of the time that is crucial. You are a part of the success of that one, right?
I understand. Even as a young ranger, like, I remember a lot of guys be like, oh, he's a fucking pogue and fuck these guys and fuck those guys and he's a leg. And it's like, dude, do you like your vehicles working?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like your food to show up on the birds?
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like, make no mistake that we're a cog in this machine, just like everyone else.
That's right.
And if you start to assign more or less worth or importance based on what your role in the cog is, you're kind of out of touch with reality.
So many, though, to give credit back to the combat community, so many of the combat veterans, especially all the dudes inside of Refit, are so gracious, genuinely gracious to the individuals that are struggling with that. Because when we're telling the truth around the fire, that's a person like who's saying like, I felt like I didn't do anything. And then that combat guy's like, you did everything.
Yeah.
You mean so much to us. You meant so much to me when I was out there on the front line. That is the thing. It actually gets me. I just got a little emotional even saying that loud because it's real. Because I'm thinking about all the guys that said that to others and the profound impact that it had on them. Because it's real. It's true. It's the truth.
Yes.
The truth shall set you free.
No, you put yourself out there all by yourself. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And But it's weird how like a lot of people, and me included to a certain extent, is like you look at your experience and what you did and what you didn't do. And when you're in that dark place, it's easy to start telling yourself that story.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what I did was
Yep.
didn't matter. It didn't help. I didn't do what I could have. I should have done this. I should have done that. Get caught up in the shoulda, coulda, woulda game, and that doesn't ever lead anywhere good.
That's right. That's right. That's why actually the Stoic philosophy of like make a decision is so important, because if you just make it, fucking just do it, just act. If you can accept that you did something, that's a profound act to decide that I'm okay with that decision. That's profound.
Yeah.
The action of it is profound.
Well,
right?
and you even hear like Jocko talk about that when they're training like junior officers in the SEAL teams. It's like they're up on the catwalk watching a guy take down a building, right? And it's like, I would rather see him make a decision that may have not been the best decision as opposed to just sitting there being paralyzed.
Not hesitating at all.
Yeah.
That kind of methodology, carry that mantra, that teaching into the real world. When you understand things, like you mentioned it earlier, when you're in training, you learn like if you stay there, you will die.
Yeah, if you don't move, you're gonna die. That's just life. That's
life, right?
It's literally training because you'll die. It's literally combat because you'll die. But in life, if you don't make a decision, you're gonna be stagnant where you're at forever.
And Benjamin Franklin said that most men die at 25 or stop living at 25 and then die at 75.
Yeah.
Like that.
Fucking nuts.
But
bro.
what? But
that
why,
long ago, they were already coming to that same conclusion, dude.
That long ago. Also, there was another quote that was said thousands of years ago. I woke up this morning in my warm bed and I didn't want to get out. That has been the same thought. That's why, the difference between science and philosophy and why it's so important to think about this is science is you go up and then you fail at something, you go up and you fail, you're constantly climbing and learning new things or whatever. In philosophy, it's like this. It's a harmony of life. We are the same people that we were thousands of years ago today. And
I know. It's nuts to think about.
It is nuts, but that means you can look back and you can look into these books. And if you read a book, you're reading a lifetime and you're learning about this lifetime to be able to pass on to somebody else. That's why the pen is more powerful than a sword, right? Like that is why, because you're influencing the mind. That's why you can win a war without shooting a bullet.
No, there's a good book. It's called Rules for a Night. And it's an easy read. You could read it in a day or two.
Okay. Never heard of it.
And, it was recommended to me by a friend, and it's written by Ethan Hawke, right? And I was like, Hollywood shit. Like, I'm not really interested. Well, come to find out, Ethan Hawke, all he did was basically categorize the journal of a relative of his from the 1500s who was a knight. And it's his journal. And it's rules for being a knight. And the most fascinating thing, it's like, his aspirations, his goals, the moral code that he's trying to live by, the way in which he treats his wife, the way in which he's trying to raise his children. It's like 100% congruent with how I feel today. And it's like, we're flying around in fucking airplanes and putting robots on other planets and all this crazy shit. But in the core, men are the same as they've always been.
Totally. Peter Beck, New Zealand rocketeer, never went to college, anything like that. Engineer that built rockets for New Zealand, the first ones ever in New Zealand. That guy came over to the United States, saw NASA, and he looked at NASA and he saw a shell because bureaucracy killed them and dehumanized all of it. Science can sometimes do the exact opposite, which is of a human being. It completely dehumanizes and becomes just numbers. The number one quote, and I'm going to lead into this, the number one quote for the E equals MC squared of evil is 1 man dead is a tragedy. 1 million men dead is a number. Stop turning the mind into a number. Stop categorizing us because not everyone is the same. Yes, you have like the color blue or the color red might have, we're all wearing red shirts. Okay, so what about deeper into it though? Does some have white inside of it? They're not all the same. When you categorize things, it limits the growth that you can potentially have personally. That's why your world and the world we're in right now is all internal. It's all internal. It sounds crazy, but it's not crazy, man. When you really recognize that, that's when you begin to change the world around you. That's why those quotes and those things throughout history, again, the breadcrumbs have been laid for us. Why are we not paying attention?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, it's good shit, man. I appreciate this conversation because, like, It doesn't matter who you are or how far you're on your growth journey. You can always take a step back and reflect and try and be better and try and change the trajectory even a little more. And I know that I'm just sitting here today. There's little things that I'm like, I could do this a little better. I could implement that strategy. And like, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's conversation.
That's right.
So we're going to have to wrap it up because we're coming up on 2.5 hours. But I just want you guys, like, if people are interested in anything they heard today, where do they find you guys? Your social media, emails, like all that stuff I can put in the show notes below. So when we're done here, if you could just text me a list of all of that stuff, but also just talk about it too before we wrap this up.
Yeah, some big things that we're looking for, a huge push we're aiming for. We only have, being the size that we are, we've, for example, 208 veterans so far and first responders that we've put through our retreat program.
Is that like an annual thing that you guys do, or are they kind of sporadic?
That's cumulative right now, 208. So plus all the missions that we run with our mobile base, which we show up like every week. We're on the military base, we're in a community or something like that. It all takes money. And we're looking for monthly donors of $1 or more to really jump in with us, because that allows us to operate better and do things and show up for people randomly and get a guy on a last minute flight, which costs thousands of dollars sometimes to get them out on a retreat. Because they need it. And the monthly donations is crucial. We only have like 31 monthly donors right now, and we've done so much. And that's my fault because I was so focused on execution, right? But now we need to really focus on the back office stuff, the logistics side of things to really make us expand. And we need that $1 monthly donation. That's crucial to everything. We need that 10, 20, 25, whatever. We also need corporate sponsors as well. And all of that can be found on our website, projectrefit.us, projectrefit.us. And then all of our social media is at Project Refit. And we're really active on Instagram and Facebook. We don't use TikTok. I don't really want to use TikTok ever. We can get into the reason why at some other point, but I don't want to get on that rabbit hole. So yeah, at Project Refit and projectrefit.us, and please consider becoming a monthly donor to help us out. Especially this is being recorded on Giving Tuesday. So
yeah.
You have anything else?
Yeah. No, I'll say personally, my spiel that I feel like I have to say is, as a government employee and a current U.S. soldier, I don't have a political opinion on anything that's been discussed today. Also, we definitely need donors. 208 sounds like a small number, but the retreats are kept small. 12 people or less is mandatory so that we can get into the deep conversation. And we are flying people from Florida to Montana. Like, we're flying people everywhere. If you need when you apply to go on a retreat, you fill that form out and you need to be on a retreat, next day you got a flight.
That's right.
If you're in crisis, next day you got a flight to the retreat.
That's right.
So now our focus kind of switches to expansion, bringing in a revenue stream that is sustainable, so that we can get the mobile bases moving around the country, get the retreats to multiple going on at the same time, so that we do have a backlog of people going on retreats. And my number one goal is to get through that backlog before I'm a paid employee. I believe so much in the way that Project Refit does help soldiers and first responders, and the approach to the mental aspect of it is, yes, that's hard and it sucks. You need to own it before you can deal with it. And if you sit here and say, oh, I'm hurt and this, that, and the other, life happens to everyone. And if you're going to sit there and be hurt, you're not making a decision to go anywhere. So I believe in the mission so much that it is my goal to get through the 300 people as fast as possible and get them help and follow-up support on the back end. That's where fire teams come into play. And on the front end, helping fire team leaders decide, like, hey, this guy actually needs more help than he's letting on. You let us know, give us his name. He's going on a retreat.
Or her.
So I am on fire about the way that we do things, and I absolutely mean it when I say I saw this and I said, I've done so many things throughout the last 12 years that benefited other people. or things that I didn't really feel like doing, I'm fucking taking this.
And really important to say, we do look at this like a war, and logistics wins wars, okay? What that means is we are not building an all-volunteer organization. I think that is a tragedy to just focus on that. You need to win something. You need to get the money to hire the people that are willing to do it.
So you have longevity.
Exactly right. We cannot win this if we don't hire people to do the things, right? That is everything. So if you don't like that we're not an all-volunteer organization, then we're not your organization. But if you want to enter into something to win, we're your organization. That's what we are. So that's why we're aiming to hire people.
If we hired social workers, would it be a problem if they got paid to help soldiers?
That's right.
I don't think so. But if we hire somebody to do marketing or somebody to run the retreats list and manage all of those logistics, they're helping more people than that social worker could ever help individually.
That's right.
So that is where your donations are going to go. They are going to go to paying staff in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
I want to be completely upfront about that.
Yep.
But absolutely every dollar we can squeeze into helping veterans and first responders is exactly where it goes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
Hopefully this conversation inspires some people and get some momentum moving for you guys. And I'm excited to see where you guys go, and stay in touch. Keep me posted, and maybe we'll circle back in the future.
Cool, man. Would love to.
All right. Appreciate you
everyone.
guys.